Good evening. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Arlington Independent School District on June 8, 2017 at 5:34 p.m. Our first agenda item is the swearing in of our school board trustees, and presiding over that swearing in is the Honorable Judge Matt Hayes. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's begin. Keisha and Keisha Mays, Bowie Hogg, make their way down for the swearing in.
All right, Keisha, is there a best place for us to be?
Usually right there.
Just like this?
Right here.
All right.
This is perfect.
All right. That means the cameras are pointed at you. All right, Keisha, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Keisha Mays,
I, Keisha Mays,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
Trustee Place 7, Arlington Independent School District
Trustee Place 7, Arlington Independent School District
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws
the Constitution and the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And I think we're supposed to autograph some paperwork. So make sure we got yours.
That's me.
And all right. And I'm sure they're going to want all their paperwork back.
Thank you.
Thank you again for letting me do this.
Of course.
Is there anyone else?
Mr. Hogg?
Thank you. You need to put your sheet out. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Bowie J. Hogg,
I, Bowie J. Hogg,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
Trustee Place 6, Arlington Independent School District
Trustee, Place 6, Arlington Independent School District
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws
and the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. And then autograph right up there.
Thank you.
All right. You are all set, and I think that's
Thank
y'all's
you.
pens. I just want to say again, thank you to the board, to your superintendent for the work you do for these kids, for the community. They've become my passion, and my hat's off to you for all you do to make this happen for them and for our community. And thank you for having me here tonight.
Mr. Hogg, please.
Let me take a minute and thank Miss Mays first for this. I know your family's at a 7-on-7 game. I have the distinct honor of having my wife and two beautiful daughters, Helen and Ellis. Say hi. Someone just woke up from a nap. Also thank my mom and my dad for all the support over all these many years from 9 years. Thank y'all for all y'all's support. Let me also thank Judge Hayes. Judge Hayes is a true innovator for Justice of Peace Court, choosing him to select to swear us in. He brought not only his justice court to helping students and truly trying to help students, but he brought it to the school to make it more accessible for a bad situation. Sometimes students are in a situation where it's not a great thing, and I commend you on your innovation for helping the schools and the city on that. And just thank you on behalf of the whole district, for all your support and all of our family. I think on behalf of the whole board, we all know how hard it is sometimes to be a trustee, so I thank you for all the family and all the support of the staff. Thanks.
Ms. Mays?
Thank you. Thank you again, Judge Hayes. Really appreciate you swearing in. Want everybody to know that the words that we just said, even though it's something that you have to do as a formality, meant every single word that we said, to serve, protect, to make sure that all of our students have equal access to education, to make sure that they're safe, to make sure they're secure, to make sure that our staff is happy as they can be every morning to wake up and come to work. Very excited to have another 3 years to do the best that I can to make sure that we govern according to our policies and procedures. So just thank you very much. Thank you to the group behind me. Looking forward to working with you all for as long as possible. And we're going to get to work now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mays. Thank you so much, Judge Hayes. We appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate all that you do with our students in partnership day in and day out. We're truly blessed to have a community that is so tuned in and keyed in to public education. Thank you, and thank you for being here this evening to swear in, and now let's congratulate our amazing colleagues, Mr. Bowie Hogg, Ms. Keisha Mays. Welcome back. We're certainly glad to see you. We have such a great opportunity in Arlington to elect individuals that citizens will represent them well in making decisions that impact the lives of everybody in the community, and I know how hard you work, and so thank you, and welcome back. A round of applause for these two folks. Now that we've had that much celebration, you know what, it's time to get to work. So we have our, there's work to be done. We'll move shortly to our work session, and we'll be back out of the boardroom about 7 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order the open session of the board meeting of the Arlington Board of Trustees on June 8, 2017 at 7:11 p.m. We'll start this meeting with the opening ceremony. Dr. Cavazos, would you please join us in leading the pledge?
Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and if you'll all join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And if you take a moment, which we might have done before the moment of silence, to silence your cell phones. Glad that worked out okay for us all. So to avoid disruptions to those around you, we'd appreciate that very much. And one of the items which preceded this meeting was the swearing in of our re-elected trustees, Bowie Hogg and Keisha Mays. Congratulations on your election. Now we move to our next item on our agenda, which is the organization of the Board of Trustees, which is the election of board officers. It is our policy each year at this meeting in which we seat trustees for new terms, the election of board officers be placed on the agenda. At this time, the gavel is handed over to the superintendent for the purpose of beginning our elections. This only happens, and it's only for the purpose of beginning of elections, yeah. Otherwise, we want it back. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sullins. And do we have a motion and a second for the position of president?
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. I'd like to nominate Dr. Aaron Reich for president of the Arlington Board of Trustees.
I second that motion.
Any other nominations? If not, please vote.
All trustees vote in the affirmative. Congratulations. Moving on over.
Comfortable seats now, Jamie.
Okay. Got to get used to this. All right, so next item on our agenda then is the vice president position. Do I hear a motion for the position of vice president?
Dr. Reich, I would very proudly like to nominate the Honorable John Hibbs for Vice President of our Board of Trustees.
Second.
Any discussion? Any other nominations? Please vote, and I guess we have to, this is different. We have an archaic system here that we.
We'll fix it up.
Gotta do it this way. Okay, please vote. And I don't want to, there's a switch here that you don't want to hit. I'm trying to avoid that. Votes show all in the affirmative. Congratulations, Mr. Hibbs. Next on the agenda is for the position of secretary. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, I just cleared you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Hudson.
President Dr. Reich, thank you. I'll have to figure out which title to use for
President
you now.
Doctor.
President Doctor.
I am very happy to nominate the Honorable Keisha Mays for Board Secretary.
And I'm honored to second.
Very well. We have a motion and a second for Ms. Keisha Mays as secretary. Any other nominations? Any discussion? And please vote. We're going to get our steps in tonight.
Technology.
Okay. All those present vote in the affirmative. Congratulations, Ms. Mays, you are secretary. Now, is there a nomination for assistant secretary? Mr. Hogg.
Yeah. President, Honorable Dr. Aaron Reich. We'll figure it out, Ms. Hudson, what to call him. We'll boost his ego for just a little bit tonight from where it's going. For years, we've talked about the assistant secretary position, not having a majority of the board as officers. I think for almost 4 years, we've been talking about this. So tonight, I moved to table this item until after the governance committee reviewed board policy, BDA local, and returned with its recommendations of potentially not having a assistant secretary position for the board officers.
All right. That's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The motion is to table the discussion on assistant secretary to review policy and perhaps a change. Okay, please vote.
It's kind of a dance, yeah.
All those in favor vote in the affirmative. The assistant secretary position has been tabled until further notice. All right, moving right along. Well, you know what, moment of personal privilege. Before we move right along, I would like to say a few words for our now immediate past president, Ms. Sullins. This is an awfully big chair to fill. Your service, your passion, your dedication is second to none on this board. You were chosen by us originally 2 years ago as president because you were the hardest working trustee, was our opinion. And don't start welling up, I'm going to start welling up. Your service has been tireless. You have done a remarkable job in leading this board, leading this district. And I am, for the whole board, I am humbled, I am honored to be able to walk in your footsteps and try to fill those shoes. Anybody in this district knows your heart, and we on this board, besides what everybody sees out in public, we see your leadership and your passion, and we could not have a better leader. I'm going to miss that. And I have big shoes to fill to the rest of the team. I will do my best to make sure that we have a wonderful, cohesive unit as a team moving forward in any way, shape, or form that I can to somewhat fulfill the legacy that you have left in this position. You really have. And with that, I would open it up with anybody else that has other words.
Aaron, if I could also add to that, not just big shoes, but some higher heeled shoes too to fill, so.
I don't know that I'm going to be wearing those, just saying.
Just very briefly, want to say congratulations to you, Dr. Reich, but thank you, Jamie, once again for offering your services of leadership, of friendship, of helping transition moves. Any questions that were needed, you were willing to answer, dig down deep to be honest, no matter what that honesty meant. And if anybody knows, the main thing I always appreciate is honesty, because that's something I can work with. So really appreciate your honesty and your friendship and your leadership, and love, love, love the passion that you have for this district, no matter what role you serve it in. Thank you very much.
Ms. Walton.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. I just want to say, I've worked with many different leaders over the years in all sorts of capacities, and Jamie, I think you take the prize for running a meeting efficiently and making sure the business gets done and that we stay on task. And that's a hard, hard thing to do. And you have my utmost respect and gratitude for getting us through what we needed to get done and on our way. Thank you.
Mr. Hibbs? Yeah, you're going to have to wait.
Jamie and I are like brother and sister. We fought like brother and sister. We generally, especially because we ran our elections at the same time with one another. She was waking me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was talking to her at 11 o'clock at night. I have a daughter that's named Jamie, and many people thought that we were actually married for a long time. The role of president is one that absolutely has to stand firm for the district that she represents. We have had an absolute champion representing us for the last 2 years, but even more than that, Jamie Sullins is truly, if you want to go and look at what makes someone a really incredible trustee, it's someone that pours their heart and soul into the position. And since there's going on 8 years that you've been on the board, you have always said, what can we do to make our district one step better? And once we got to that point, you step in and do that one more time. But in your service and role as a president, it was always the district first. You didn't care about any accolades. You didn't care about anything coming back directly onto you. You were always saying, how do we represent our 63,000 students? How do we represent our 8,000 employees? And how do we ensure that the taxpayers know that what we're trying to put out is the absolute best thing for our community? We don't always get it right, and we know that there's always struggles. That when you have that many dynamics, there's always going to be a different thing. But you never wavered in your support of our district. And I appreciate you being a champion for our district. And there's a Ray Boltz song, and you've heard me say this a couple of times over the years, that it describes a person that has gone up and just always did what was right. And it talks about one day when you get to heaven, there's going to be a line. There's going to be a huge line that's going to be coming up to you of people that you've never met. But because of the impact that you've had upon them, they're just going to thank you. And truly, the support that you've done for God's most precious is going to be rewarded. Now, unfortunately, your crown is going to have so many of those jewels, and I'm still going to be looking at aluminum thing. But Jamie, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, President Dr. Aaron Reich. Mr. Hibbs, very well said, and I'm with you on the crown. Ms. Sullins will be wearing a great one. Congratulations to Dr. Reich, Mr. Hibbs, and Ms. Mays. This whole board has confidence in you, and we appreciate y'all's leadership that y'all will be taking on this year. Dr. Reich, the position of board president is no joke. It's many hours and many time, and Ms. Sullins, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your hard work. I remember the very first time we had the discussion when you were starting to think about running. I said, do it. You're made for this. And then we made up the fake Trustee of the Year award, which you've earned every single year. You're an outstanding trustee, and I'm proud to serve with you. It was an honor to watch you these last 2 years. You've been a great president. I warned you, it's tiring, and it wears you out, and you did it with class and amazingly leadership and representing the entire board, which is what the board president does. But more importantly, the 64,000 students and the 8,000 employees of this district, we can't thank you enough for your tireless effort. Thank you for all you've done.
Ms. Hudson.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. I do want to extend my congratulations and gratitude to Dr. Reich and Keisha Mays and John Hibbs. The work that we do just as trustees is a lot, and to take on a leadership role and be willing to take on even more is extremely appreciated. Jamie, I could not have asked for a better leader to come in under, to step into a brand new role and learn so much, and to have someone like you to look to who is extraordinarily knowledgeable about the district, always prepared and always organized. You set a fantastic example, and I have learned so much just from visiting with you and observing you and being around you, and I've really appreciated having a chance to grow under your leadership. Thank you.
Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Rice. Jamie, thank you for your service as a board president. I think Mr. Hogg warned you about that, and it lived up to expectations. Jamie, you've done an outstanding job, and every superintendent would be blessed to have a board president like you. Your dedication, the time, your heart, you pour everything into it, Jamie, and thank you so much. You've challenged me to grow as well, and like you do everybody that you meet. And thank you for the time and all those hours that you spend, not to scare you there, Aaron, but all those hours that we spend together processing things and preparing for the next board meetings and things like that. So I just want to thank you. You're an outstanding, humble servant for our students, and I really appreciate it.
Ms. Sullins.
I have a thing or two to say. Thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, congratulations, Dr. Reich. Don't let any of this scare you. It's we are so pleased that you are willing to step forward in this role and to serve students exceptionally well so that 100% of them are successful, so 100% are ready for career college of their choice. And we know that that is on the front of your mind every single day. Mr. Hibbs, Vice President Hibbs, I should say, congratulations. The district is so lucky to have you in this leadership arena, and everything that you do is comes from the heart. Appreciate you stepping up for this. And Ms. Mays, what an amazing secretary that you will be for this board. And, you know, I'm just so pleased that and so appreciative for your leadership and the willingness of time. And that being said, guys, these people don't go easy on you, as you can see. They just didn't see that coming. Let me assure you that not one trustee gets anything done. We are a body of one as 7, or we call 8 people. And so anything that happens doesn't happen as a result of any one person's work. It takes the entire team. Now, you will see districts across the state that sometimes have a lot more, confrontational style or what have you. And I'm so pleased with this district because while we push each other very hard, and I assure you that happens, the professionalism, the congenial, the work that we're able to move forward. And if I could say that in addition to having this amazing group of colleagues that I have been blessed to work with, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt we have the top, most outstanding faculty here too. So Dr. Cavazos and your entire team, senior staff, thank you for what you do. And with that being said, I'm going to rest up a little bit. Dr. Rush?
Thank you, President Sullins. Want to switch seats back? All right. Well, let's get down to the business of our work here as a board. The first item on our agenda under program and presentation is item A, the recognition of the J. Woodrow Count Scholarship recipients. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice, and I'd like to call Nell Fielding to assist us in this presentation of our Woodrow Count Scholarship recipients. Nell.
Well, good evening, President Reich, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board. It's an honor for me to present the recipients of the 2016-17 J. Woodrow Count Scholarships. A committee at each high school selects a student to be considered by the final selection committee. And so the J. Woodrow Count Scholarship is awarded to students who want to continue their education. The recipients are seniors who have earned high academic honors. They have outstanding leadership qualities and possess a unique combination of talents. But before presenting the recipients, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Mr. Counts. He was born in Bynum, Texas, and he graduated from Bynum High School. When he graduated, he went on to what is now the University of North Texas on a basketball scholarship. When he graduated from college, he served his country during World War II. He was a U.S. naval officer aboard the USS Texas. In 1949, Mr. Counts joined Arlington ISD and began his career with us. He spent 36 years in our district. He retired as superintendent in 1985. The J. Woodrow Counts Administration Building is named after him. Mr. Counts took great pride in Arlington schools, the personnel, the students who strive to make an outstanding system. He died in October of 2006 at the age of 90. His legacy will live on through the scholarship that he established and founded. So it's my pleasure to introduce Cameron Wynn from Martin High School. I ask him to join us. And Annalise Eldridge from Seguin High School. And they're going to tell us a little bit about their future plans and introduce any guests they have.
Hi, my name's Cameron Wynn. My mom's with me. That's Kim. I guess usually I would present like what I did in high school, but since I graduated on Friday, I don't really know what I have because it's a clean slate now. But so I'll be attending the University of Texas at Austin and majoring in business, and I hope to go into management. And honestly, I guess that's all I have. So.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Annalise from Seguin High School. I plan to go to UT Arlington and major in nursing, and then I want to eventually get my master's to become a neonatal nurse practitioner. And so those are my future plans. And unfortunately, my mom wasn't able to make it. She had to go to work. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. What a great honor to be able to be a recipient of a scholarship from such a namesake that we have here in the district. Congratulations, you two, and best of success to you. We look forward to hearing your successes and your accolades further. Bring it back to us so that we know. Next on the agenda is item B, presentation by the Arlington Collegiate High School students. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice. And this evening, we have a presentation by some students from the Collegiate High School. And we were supposed to do this last board meeting, but the weather didn't cooperate. So at this time, I'd like to call up Assistant Principal Jeff Krieger to introduce our students and tell us a little bit about this. And welcome.
President Reich, esteemed members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, we appreciate the opportunity to stand before you today. We briefly today wanted just to share the story of a select group of students that worked on behalf of the community, those that are less fortunate in our community. At the forefront of this process was one of our excellent educators, which was Dr. Harrison McCoy. Unfortunately, this evening he couldn't be here, so I'm going to briefly read his prepared statement for you, and then I'll have our students come up here in a second. All right. Thank you, Superintendent Cavazos and members of the board, and thank you to Dr. Boland for your support. Earlier this year, I applied for and received a small grant from the Arlington Alliance for Youth that was designed to be used for a community services experience with my students. I elected to embed that in a project-based learning unit for my computer applications class. The goal was to provide students with an opportunity to learn how to use technology to address a real-world problem. I chose the issue of homeless students. We enlisted the aid of our Families in Transition office and our specialist here, Heather Andrews. Our goals were first one was use technology to try to understand the educational needs of homeless students and develop a response to those needs. Provide my students with an avenue by which they can cultivate a spirit of empathy. Put a face on the Arlington ISD by helping them understand that they are the AISD. And also allow them a chance to use good citizenship skills by meeting you and discovering the meaning of what an AISD school board is. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my students here, Brandon Ayala and Brian Areza. Guys, come on up. And they're both going to read, they have a resolution they like to read to you, so they're going to read, one's going to read one half and one of the other half. All right, go ahead.
The AISD School Board does a great deal to lessen the burdens homeless students have in their daily school lives. Families in Transition is a program aimed to help homeless students or families that are currently moving. It serves pre-K, elementary, junior high, and high school students in transitional living situations. The primary focus of this program is to provide continuity for the learner and a positive experience utilizing instruction and education-related activities. Families in Transition partners with various programs that provide medical care, food, and shelter. We respectfully ask that the school board continues to provide services to those students who are in between homes in order to further their academic study and also seek new and innovative ways to help these students. This could include educating campus staff and all the students about those who are without a proper home. Students tend to attach a negative meaning to the word homeless, and this can create a barrier that prevents us from helping a wider scope of students who find themselves in the situation where they are without a home. We should work to clear away some of the perceptions that homelessness is something that shouldn't be discussed and find ways to convince others to be part of the solution. Activities and programs aimed at creating more empathy to homeless students will increase the number of people willing to help.
Donations are also crucial to the development of a solid plan aimed at solving this crisis. Campuses could work to bring attention to the severity and importance of this cause in order to build support. Shelters in Arlington, Dallas, and Fort Worth are at capacity, which means that more and more people are being afflicted with this problem. Out of 100 homeless people, 21 are students without a home. In conclusion, as students at Arlington Collegiate High School, we commend the Arlington ISD School Board members for the support of the educational needs of families and students in transition, and we present these wristbands to the members of the board, principals, and assistant principals as a way of providing a reminder of the challenges faced by these students. We are grateful to the Arlington Alliance for Youth Small Grants Program for providing the funds used for our project-based learning activity, and for the encouragement of our principal, Dr. Ben Boland, and assistant principal, Mr. Jeff Krieger.
I think I just let you guys know, too, these students here didn't know they were speaking until the moment they walked in here today, because they originally had a spokesman, so a great job to them as we surprised them by, hey, go to your first board meeting and also come speak.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. You You both are fine young gentlemen. You presented very well, especially for being on the spot at the last minute. I would just like to say that we all wholeheartedly are in great support of the Families in Transition program. It is so important to offer the level of stability for families, for children that are in such an unstable situation. That is our goal as a board, is to provide the greatest access and opportunity for student achievement possible. So your words are very well appreciated and heard, and thank you very, very much. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Next on our agenda, item C, under program presentation, recognition of AISD principals and assistant principals of the year. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Reich. And tonight we'd like to recognize our principal and assistant principals of the year. This is a task that we really look forward to, and it was really structured by the area superintendent, so I want to thank them. I'm going to ask Dr. Buell, Christy Buell, to come down and introduce our principals and assistant principals of the year that could join us tonight. And I just want to thank them ahead of time, all the principals, for their hard work and dedication, and the ones that are being recognized for their exceptional work.
All right, thank you. And good evening, Board President Reich and board members and Dr. Cavazos. It's my distinct honor tonight to present to you the Arlington ISD Elementary Principal of the Year, Assistant Principal of the Year for the elementary and secondary schools. Again, we had a lot of schools that we were able to visit, and it was just a highlight of my spring semester. And the testimonies that the teachers gave, the days that we spent in the school, it was just a real pleasure. So I'd like to present to you Grayson Tepurzer. He is a Fitzgerald Elementary Principal and our Elementary Principal of the Year. Rennie Lizardo, Carter Junior High Secondary Principal of the Year. He could not be here tonight, but he is watching it online. Bailey Morris, Marymore Elementary Assistant Principal of the Year, and she is also the Region 11 TEPSA Assistant Principal of the Year, so she represents our district for that as well. And Brian Bird is the Seguin High School Secondary Assistant Principal of the Year. He could not be here, but he is also watching it online. I want to talk a little bit about the process. It was a rigorous process in selecting these outstanding administrators, and it began back in February. Each of the nominees were recognized for their outstanding performance by stakeholders within their learning community. Once nominated, the applications were reviewed, and we conducted extensive site visits on the campus that validated their professional practices. Interviews were conducted with teachers, administrators, and students on each of the campuses. Stories were told about the qualities of these administrators and the impact that they're having on the campus were just amazing. Some of the people that we interviewed were moved to tears as they were talking about how fortunate they were to work under the leadership of these administrators. On-site observations were also conducted, and we saw the great examples of teaching and learning on each of these campuses. I'd also like to thank the AISD employees from each of the departments that helped us with this process. We had a group that conducted this. We also involved our 2016 Principal of the Years. We had Sam Nix and Dr. Connie Spence that were involved in that process. Again, many of our principals could be right here today, and I think that's one of the things that makes my job so pleasurable, is we just have great leadership within this district. But tonight we want to honor the ones that were selected by their peers and by people within their learning community. And so it is my honor to welcome up this evening Grayson Tepurzer and Bailey Morris, our Assistant Principal of the Year for Elementary and our Principal of the Year for Elementary.
I'm going to go with Board President Dr. Reich, Dr. Cavazos, and esteemed members of the school board. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to do what I love, which is to work with teachers and kids to maximize kids' potential. We're having a lot of fun doing that. It fits. I consider an award like this to be a building level award because without the dedication of the teachers and the amazing achievement of the kids, then I wouldn't be honored like this. And so I want to congratulate the staff at Fitzgerald and thank them for the opportunity to get a recognition like this and to congratulate the kids and the families from the school. I'd also like to comment on the culture of the district. You guys may or may not know or remember, I've been here 2 years, so I'm relatively new, and the culture in the district is just outstanding. I've benefited from countless collegial relationships with teachers and administrators, and have freely received great advice and friendship from many quarters since I've been here, and I think that tone gets set from the top. I want to thank Tracy Brown, who's a phenomenal boss and mentor. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the Seguin Network principals who are here. We're all here to support the appointment of a new team member tonight. So thank you again for the honor. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Reich, Dr. Cavazos, and the esteemed members of the board. Thank you so much. I'm humbled by these two awards. It's truly a testament to, just like he said, our campus. Without the students, the parents, the faculty, and the community of Mary Moore, they've taught me so much each and every day that I'm at work. I'm thankful to Tammy Vardy for encouraging me to pursue administration, for Dr. Buell for taking a chance on that first year AP to walk alongside her on the campus, to Wyling George, who continued to mentor me, and I'm thankful that I get to work every day alongside Tyson Jones, who is a wonderful mentor and continues to help me grow, to my amazing and loving husband who supports me no matter the task and also helps at school events. I'm very thankful for him, and this is an amazing district, and if I named every principal and assistant principal and faculty member that ever helped me, we would be here all night. So I thank you so much for letting me be a part of this amazing district. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and congratulations on your awards. It's no surprise to hear that you're chosen as the winners from what I heard in what both of you said, and I know that is echoed with all of our leadership in this district, is that you can't do it alone, and you have a great support base and network. That says a lot. We're very proud of the work that you have done as a leader, Dr. Cavazos, in setting up strong leaders in our district, and I'm sure the selection process was a difficult one. So thank you, Dr. Buell, for the presentation. Congratulations to you too. Moving on, our next item is item D, presentation of the fire truck by the Arlington Fire Department. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Reich, and we have all kinds of presentations now, a fire truck. I'd like to call Ginger Polster, the principal of the Career Tech Center. And Ginger will introduce who's here and a little bit about the program, but in advance, I want to thank our Arlington Fire Department for the outstanding partnership that we have together and your continued support of our students and really paving the way for so many programs that you set a bar of excellence with us, and we continue to strive to set that bar for all our programs. So thank you in advance. Ginger.
All right, President Reich, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board, thank you for letting us visit with you this evening to give you an update about our partnership with the Arlington Fire Department and our Fire Academy program. It is a three-way partnership between Tarrant County College, Arlington ISD, and the Arlington Fire Department. It's a 2-year program, and at the end of those 2 years, the students receive their Texas Commission on Fire Protection certification and their National Registry EMT certification. We actually began the program in the fall of 2011, so it's really hard for me to believe that coming up this fall, it's been 6 years. And we're very excited to let you know it will be moving to the Career Tech Center in fall of 2017, which, by the way, students will arrive in 74 days. So.
Who's counting?
No, we're excited. So from 2013 to 2016, it does not include the students who just graduated because those students are not yet, they've just become eligible to sit for their EMT exam. We've actually graduated 77 students. 10 of those have actually been hired by the Arlington Fire Department. 6 have been hired by AMR. We have 5 hired by other fire departments. 3 have continued on to nursing school. When you do the math, that's a little over 33% of our students who have gone through the program who are now either employed or on their way to employment. There are an additional 95 students that are in the program that will graduate in either 17, 18, or 19. So we're very, very proud of those numbers, and it just continues to grow. So when we first started the program, we didn't have a fire engine. And so from the support of the fire department, they would rearrange things and do things so that our students had access to be able to do the skills that they needed to do and to be able to learn. So several years ago, the fire department was generous enough to actually donate a fire engine to the district that was dedicated just to our students. And we've had it ever since. And it has huge benefits to our students because we couldn't do what we do with the students without it. So here's just a couple of things, or it's actually a list of things that, that the students actually benefit from. It's hose deployment and loads, loading and unloading ladders. There's a technique to everything. How to dismount from the unit correctly. How to use the hydraulic system and the pumping system, how to, emergency dispatch simulations. What does it look like if you're headed to an emergency? The concept and use of a deck gun. How do you put on your SCBA and get out and get ready? And then how to actually connect it to a fire hydrant. So it has great benefits to our students. The students could not do what they do without it, and that's to thank to our great partners, the Arlington Fire Department. And so we do have the fire engine here, and here in just a little bit we'll be able to see that. Here's a picture of it. It looks a little different out there. It actually has our logo on it, and it says engine number 1, but this is actually our second one. So at this time, I'm actually going to turn it over to Randy Fulton. He is an Arlington Fire Department fireman, but he is also the coordinator over our program, and he and Chief Krausen will come up and visit with you just a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Chief.
Congratulations, Dr. Reich, and members of the board. It's a great opportunity. Dr. Cavazos, I was here, I think, 5 years ago, bearing a gift. I'm here to take it back, and we're gonna give you another one. We're very excited about it. I think this outstanding board, this outstanding district is well known across the country. It's because of your visionary leadership, your desire to create opportunity for students, and in return, you've allowed us to partner with you to help fulfill your vision and mission in serving the community. For your own personal knowledge, school districts from across the country contact us. Fire departments contact us. They want to emulate the partnership that we have here in Arlington, and that's a source of pride for us and for you because we know what it takes to partner and to be successful. And we've got lifesavers on the Arlington Fire Department from this school district, from this program, and we're very thankful that certainly for dedicated instructors like Lieutenant Fulton and Lieutenant Constantine for him. We find people who care, who can connect with the kids, who can give them a path to a future and meet their futures and create successful outcomes. So I want to thank you for your leadership, your vision, your partnership, and the opportunity for us to partner with you because we're about community service in the Arlington Fire Department, and we know you are too. So it's our privilege to be a part of your family, and hopefully in 5 years we'll bring you another one. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you. We absolutely cannot thank you enough, Chief Krausen and Lieutenant Fulton. We have seen the benefits that this does for our children. There is nothing like hands-on, live things versus a lab simulation environment. And you have allowed that to help us in supporting our students to be exceptionally prepared, and that's what it's all about. So looking very forward to going out into the parking lot to see the new shiny object out there. And we will do that on our break, but we have just a little bit more business to get to before that, if you will allow. So next on our agenda, we have administrative appointments. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice, and I'd like to recommend that the board appoint the individuals discussed in closed session for principal for Nichols Junior High and principal for Piercy Elementary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Ms. Hudson, second by Ms. Sullins. Any discussion? Please vote. Sorry. Okay. Oh, I almost hit that button. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you, President Rice. At this time, I'd like to introduce the principal for Nichols Junior High, Mr. Marcus Brandon. Marcus attended Jarvis Christian College and received his Bachelor of Science in Biology and Chemistry, Concordia University for his Master in Education, for Educational Administration. Most recently, the assistant principal at Sam Houston High School, has been an assistant principal in Birdville ISD, and has been a science teacher. Marcus, congratulations.
Thank you very much to President Dr. Reich. I'll go with that as well. Dr. Cavazos, the board members, thank you so much for this vote of confidence, and I will work tirelessly to ensure that your vision is actualized at Nichols Junior High. To my support system that I have here with me today, I would like to introduce to you my father, who is 83 years young, L.H. Brandon. Dad, if you could please stand. Also, my brother, Tori Isaac, if you could please stand, Tori. And now, as I reflect on my memories of Sam Houston and other great team members, but I couldn't do that first without thanking Ms. Michelle Wilmer-Sonato for her fantastic leadership and guidance for getting me to this point in my career. To my Sam Houston High School family, Jackie McClendon, you've been my work mother. Everyone knows. Mr. Benavides, thank you for your support, your guidance, and your leadership, and for providing me an opportunity and trusting me with the education and the lives of the students at Sam Houston High School. Sam Houston High School, I love you. I will always love you. To my Tall Texan family, my math and science departments, especially, thank you for allowing me to lead you all, and I truly appreciate you all for trusting and believing in me. Please continue to take those risks each and every day to serve our students, to transform lives. Never get tired of doing it, so please continue to do those things. And now to my new family, my Mustang family. I love you guys already. I'm proud of you already. And I'm very blessed to be here and to have this opportunity. I look forward to working with all of you. And also, I'm honored to be your instructional leader. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new principal for Piercy Elementary, Ms. Cody Van Duzy. Cody attended the University of North Texas to receive her Bachelor of Science in Child and Human Development, Lamar University for her Master in Education in Ed Administration. Most recently, the interim principal at Piercy Elementary, has been an assistant principal at Piercy, a teacher support interventionist at Piercy and at Key, instructional data specialist, and an instructional consultation team member and a special ed resource teacher. Cody, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Reich and Dr. Cavazos and members of the board. I am honored to be here this evening. Thank you so much for the privilege of serving as the principal at Piercy Elementary. I want to thank my family. I've got several here with me this evening, some parents and my husband and my 3 sons. I especially want to thank my youngest son, Benton. Today is his 9th birthday, and he's sharing the day with me. Happy birthday, and I love you. I want to say thank you to the Elite 8 principals, the Seguin Network principals who are here this evening to support me. I know that I'm surrounded by a wealth of knowledge, and all of the administrators that I have had the privilege of working with this year have been amazing. And so it's very reassuring to know that I have a phenomenal group of administrators to collaborate with. To Ms. Tracy Brown, thank you for believing in me and for taking a chance on me and for allowing me to continue to serve under your leadership and your guidance. I could not stand here tonight without thanking my mentor and my friend, Mrs. Nicole Turnipseed. She took me under her wing and taught me everything that she knew. And Nicole, if you're watching, your legacy is going to live on. You have made an immense impact on every one of us at Piercy, and I hope to do you proud by continuing that work that you began. So thank you so much. There's no way that I could adequately thank all of the people who've made an impact on me and that have supported me along this journey. The list would be too long, and again, we would be here for too many hours. But please know that I am forever grateful for all of my colleagues, my friends, and my mentors. Piercy Elementary is the best school in Arlington. I will go ahead and say that. We are a high-performing school with a standard of excellence that I intend to continue that tradition. We are a team, and it takes every single one of us for us to be successful. And luckily, we have the best teachers and the best staff and the best parents and students, several who are here this evening. So I'm very confident that we will continue to achieve and to exceed your expectations. I value each and every member of our Piercy family, and I am so honored and grateful to be your principal. And I cannot wait to see what next year has in store for us. And I just want to leave you with my vision for Piercy. And it is my vision that all of our children learn to think, learn to plan, learn to reason, learn to problem solve, learn to articulate themselves, learn to innovate and create, learn to read, write, do math and science and the arts, learn to take risks and to embrace challenges, learn to make friends and learn to be a friend, and that every teacher and staff and administrator helps and supports them along the way. My vision is that when you walk into our school, that you will see active, engaged, and enthusiastic learning taking place in every single classroom, and that you will see a passion for learning from every single adult, and then you will know that that is what makes us special. Thank you.
Congratulations again to you both. Nichols and Piercy are blessed with your leadership. Thank you. As is our custom, we ask that you as appointees follow Mr. Kale to the lobby for a brief reception. We ask the audience to please let the board go first so that we can come back in for business. We will go and take a look at the fire truck as well while we're out there. It is, oh yes, and please, if you want, please, our AP and Principal of the Year, would you also go out to be recognized? Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. And we will come back at about 8:15. Thank you. We will call this meeting back in order from our temporary recess. Moving on to the next, before I move on to the next item of the agenda, there was a cell phone that was just turned in. So if somebody is missing their cell phone, it is in the safe hands and custody of Michael Hill. So please see Mr. Hill for that. Moving on, we will move to the public hearing that we have on our agenda on optional flexible school day program for 2017-18. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Reich, and I'd like to invite Wendy Carrington, Coordinator of Dropout Prevention, to visit with us about the optional flexible school day program. Wendy.
Dr. Cavazos, President Reich, members of the board. OFSDP may be implemented for students in grades 9 through 12 who are at risk of dropping out of school, participating in an approved early college high school plan, attending a state-approved innovative redesigned school, and/or require an alternate academic route due to denial of credit in one or more classes because of not meeting state attendance requirements. For the upcoming year, we will rely on this program for our district's dropout prevention program housed at 600 New York, but now seek approval to stretch this opportunity to our early college high school students as well. In doing so, the OFSDP will grant students in these transformational programs access to a flexible schedule beyond that of a traditional 180-day, 5-day per week requirement, including courses on weekends, night classes, extended day classes, and flexible schedules throughout the year to accommodate courses beyond the traditional 18-week semester. Under the OFSDP design, the school district may receive funding based on the actual time a student is in attendance from as low as 45 minutes a day to a maximum of 10 hours a day. Minutes are accumulated to maximize the ADA a student can earn during the 12-month period. Students must apply to participate. They must meet eligibility requirements and be afforded certified instructors in all educational services for which they are eligible, as well as comply with the appropriate assessments during the regularly scheduled assessment period.
Okay. So, I don't see any comment cards from the audience. Any extra words, Mr. Superintendent? Okay. Well, then the public hearing on optional flexible school day program is now closed. Thank you very much, Ms. Carrington. Okay. Now we come to the open forum for agenda items portion of our meeting. We do have 3 cards tonight. This is a routine part of the school board's agenda for regularly scheduled meetings. This segment of the meeting provides citizens with an opportunity to share their views with trustees on items that are on the agenda tonight. It is not intended to be a discussion or a debate, and trustees will not reply to the speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at an individual will not be tolerated. Personnel matters are not appropriate subjects for open forum. So as I said, we have 3 cards. When your name is called, please step to the podium. You have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. When the red light comes on and the buzzer sounds, please end your presentation. We do have 3. In order is Mr. Stephen Poole first, and then be ready, Ms. Michelle Van Zant and Mark Cumin would be 2 and 3 in that order. Mr. Poole.
Dr. Reich, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos, I'm Stephen Poole with UEA. And I'm here tonight to talk about the budget you'll discuss later. I know a lot of hard work has gone into it so far, and you have a lot of heavy lifting to do for the remainder of the month. But first, I'd be remiss without thanking Ms. Sullins for her leadership. You exemplified strength and grace at the same time, and I really appreciate our working relationship and all we were able to do over the last 2 years. So, Dr. Reich, you got big shoes to fill. I want to start by saying the governor of the great state of Texas called a special session that'll begin in July, and once they get the basics of governance out of the way, he added 19 different items, including a teacher pay raise. That's a really great thing that our governor has finally realized our teachers are underpaid and overworked and underappreciated in the great state of Texas. It's great until you hear his next breath when he said there's going to be no more money from the state, and we're going to leave it up to the individual local school districts who are starved for cash to find that money for that raise. Well, I would tell our governor, if it's so important, put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is. We know it's not important. It's just a political game. The work is done in school districts here and all across this state. You are the ones who know already that teachers are underpaid, overworked, and underappreciated because you go to church with them, you see them in the grocery store, you visit them in their classrooms in the schools throughout the year. You don't have to be told that. So I'm confident after meeting with every single one of you, all throughout your work, you're going to do what's right for teachers and every employee in this district when it comes to having a competitive salary increase and competitive raises for all employees. It's really important. The state, again, is doing abominable things to our employees with health insurance. We all talk about it. Rates are increasing anywhere from 6 to 25% depending on which plan you have. Every dollar you give, it seems the state and the governor is taking it away. So I applaud the governor for realizing finally that teachers of the state are important. But I also applaud you for the hard work you do every day for the teachers and employees in this district. So they're looking for you for relief because we know we can't rely on our state government to provide it for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Michelle Van Zant, also on budget issues relating to color guard instructors.
Good evening. Dr. Wright, Board President, Dr. Cavazos, and other members of the board. My name is Michelle Van Zant. My daughter Ashley has been on the Lamar Color Guard for the last 3 years. She'll be a senior this fall. I am here to talk to you tonight to ask you to fund the Color Guard Director as a paraprofessional employee. Currently, the band director is given a small amount of funds. He is expected to figure out how to pay for things the band needs, but also how to pay for the Color Guard instructor. This is also expected to continue after marching season is over and we switch to Winter Guard and become completely independent from the band. None of the high school band directors can afford to pay for the director with the money they're given. All of them have to rely on the booster clubs to pay for a portion of the salary. For Lamar, it's half. So the booster club ends up using money that they earn selling T-shirts, hot dogs, and washing cars to pay for the director's salary. Booster clubs are meant to support the kids. Since not all the booster clubs can afford to pay that much, some just don't have staff color guard directors. This results in high school programs having different levels of quality based on income of kids and parents. How can the kids be proud of their performances, and how can all the schools be competitive, especially at marching UIL, if AISD is not willing to fund the staff? I expect this doesn't happen in other sports like football. But for Lamar, we just lost our 3-year color guard instructor. He got us to where we are. We were very upset. He went to he went to Richardson because they can give him benefits. And they can give him a paraprofessional salary. And they also gave him a little bit of booster club supplement. I'm upset, they're upset. The kids were in tears. So we're still, this just happened, so I'm sorry. I'm running out of time. So anyway, we lost him. He went to Richardson. He's built a award-winning program. And our kids work hard, and we deserve to have someone. We got a new lady. She's real nice. I hope she stays. Many of the kids decided that they were going to leave because they love Milan so much. But they didn't. They're going to stick it out. But we need to be funded, please. We do understand that you have set aside, or Dr. Earnhardt set aside money for all the campuses so that the booster clubs, it will relieve their burden. But we're still going to have the problem of somebody leaving. When my daughter was a freshman, they had Giselle. She left. My daughter gets on the guard, all happy. The kids come out there crying. She didn't understand because she didn't know Giselle. Giselle went to Byron Nelson. They paid her a lot more. So 3 years later, deja vu. They go into the meeting. They do their tryouts or auditions. He says, oh, yeah, by the way, guess where I'm going? Half of them went, not again. They left. So the Booster Club can only fund so much. The band directors can only fund so much. They need your help. We need to keep good, qualified people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Zandt. Next, Mark Cumin.
I think my speech may be a little bit shorter now because it's a similar topic. Board members, thank you for letting me speak. I'm Mark Kinman. I am treasurer for the Lamar Band Booster Club, and I'm also a parent who have had kids who have been involved in Lamar Band for the last 6 years. So why am I here? What am I asking for is essentially to fund, in I think in a fuller way, the Color Guard program. Why do I say that? As you look at what is Color Guard and what a Color Guard director does, it's essentially, it is a year-round job. It was a surprise to me when I found that out. I thought, isn't that just a little kind of football thing they do during the fall or whatever? But you go, there's a lot of work they do, and it's a year-round job. And I guess the other thing with that, although it is a round job, they don't get paid very much, and the band directors get very little money to fund them. And part of this is, although they do get some funding, they have to cover many needs, and so they've asked the Booster Club to help. So last year, for example, Lamar Band Booster Club, we've contributed $13,000 basically for a staff position in Arlington ISD. Now, that's what we've had to do, and that's about 25% of our overall budget that we pay for. And the question is, okay, how do we do that, right? We run bake sales, we run car washes, we basically, $1 at a time, we have to raise money to help fund what I think is a fairly basic staff position. And what is also interesting about this, and it was mentioned previously, is Lamar is probably somewhere in the middle in terms of where we are. There are some schools like Martin that, you know, maybe they have a little money, they can fund things a little more, fund the position a little better. Sam Houston, not so much. It's all done with volunteers. I've been told in the past that, well, it's kind of always been that way. To me, that doesn't mean we should continue to do it that way in the future. To me, that's kind of an issue, and we should be more equitable in how we fund that position. And one of the reasons I'm asking you this is, you know, we're here as part of the Lamar Band Booster Club. We love our kids, and we want to help them. And we would love to get back to the business of basically raising money and helping our kids in ways on things like private lessons, helping with college scholarships, helping fund our disadvantaged kids that when we go to events, they can actually have some food or something to eat. So we can help them do what we think our true mission is. So we don't feel our mission is necessarily staffing that. We've had to do that in the past, but that's not what we would like to do. So we ask for your consideration in kind of helping relieve that. I know I've heard earlier tonight that that's something under consideration. I'm just asking you to please don't table it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes our open forum for agenda items. Moving next on our agenda to action items. We have 2 action items tonight. The first one is the consideration of the 2017-18 Board of Trustees meeting calendar. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Reich, and we have had this as a discussion item in the previous board meeting. And so this board meeting, we bring it for approval, the calendar for our board meetings.
Very good. Yes, we have had opportunity to look at the calendar and had time to bring up any concerns or considerations by trustees. I see no light, so I would be more than happy to entertain a motion at this moment.
Dr. Rush, I'd like to move to approve the school calendar as presented.
Thank you. Second. Motion by Mrs. Sullins, second by Mr. Hibbs for approval of the 2017-18 Board of Trustees meeting calendar. Any further discussion? If none, please vote. All those present, 100% vote in the affirmative. We have a calendar. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see your light, Ms. Mays. Okay, go ahead. What do you have?
Just for a point of clarification, Jamie, when you made your motion, you said school calendar. But it's the board calendar. I just want to make sure that it doesn't.
That's a good point. Yeah, good point. Yes. Yeah, so the board calendar as presented in this
Very
evening's
good.
agenda.
Very good.
I
Thank you, Ms.
still
Mays.
second it, and I'll miss the first meeting.
Well, I don't think we need to revote, but thank you for our auditor on the board.
Yeah, that was good. Great. That's
Appreciate
good.
that very much. All righty, moving on to item B. Consider all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of bonds of the AISD Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2017, including the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of such bonds and approving all other matters pertaining thereto. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice, and I'd like to call Cindy Powell to discuss this, our bond sales. Cindy?
Good evening, President Reich, Dr. Cavazos, board members. Earlier this evening at the board dinner meeting, we had two consultants with us. We had George Williford from First Southwest, Dan Culver from McCall Parkhurst, who visited with us and then gave details of the district's bond sale that has occurred. We had pricing yesterday. We're asking you all to approve that pricing today. If approved, this is the fourth bond sale from our 2014 bond authorization. Once this bond, and the total authorization is $663 million, so if approved, what we will have left authorized but unissued is actually $35.9 million that we would intend to sell next year. So with this particular sale of funds, we'll perform construction work at a number of our schools for deficiency projects. We actually have 11 where we'll have construction work done. We'll have 12 schools where we will be doing design work for deficiency projects that will take place the following year. And then also the big item in here, big single item, is construction of the athletics complex.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. I see no lights. I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Hudson, Ms. Mays second on action item B. Do I have to read the whole thing again? Legal counsel? They move to accept as stated previously and on the agenda. That is. Okay. All right, there's no discussion. Please vote. Okay. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Is there any items that trustees wish to withdraw from the consent agenda?
President Reich, for the point of spotlighting one of our consent agenda items tonight, under the changes to the budget, item number Fund 242, Summer Feeding Program, I'd like to withhold that from the joint consent agenda.
And to be clear, that would be under item E, consider budget changes on the
Yes.
consent agenda? All right. Noted. Any others? Okay. Well, Ms. Powell,
Yes.
how are things looking on consent?
They are looking good. On the consent agenda this evening, Dr. Reich, Dr. Cavazos, board members, we have 7 bids for your consideration. In all cases, the administration is recommending the lowest bids and the bids that represent the best value to the district. We also have donations on the agenda for your consideration this evening. And those donations total $111,118, and that brings our year-to-date total to $826,179.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great generosity. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda less item E, consider budget changes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hudson, second by Mr. Hibbs. I see no lights indicating no further discussion. Please vote. Oops, I messed up. Please vote again. Consent agenda passes, less item E. Thank you. Ms. Walton.
Thank you, President Reich. We have an amazing food service group who have all children at heart, and especially those who don't always have the most nutritious meals that they might need, or meals at all. And under this budget change, we are adding $901,789.65 to run a summer feeding program at 42 schools, which is just about half, I think, which is amazing that our staff is going to work this summer. This money will pay part of their salaries. It will serve approximately 117,671 free breakfasts, 169,525 free lunches, and 2,775 free suppers. That's amazing to me, and it is so wonderful that we can do this. And I just want to applaud our food service people and the Arlington School District for identifying this need and doing something about it. I move we approve it.
Second.
Duly noted, Ms. Walton. Motion to approve made by you, seconded by Ms. Sullins.
Hudson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Hudson. I see no lights indicated for further discussion. Please vote on item E. I'll vote in the affirmative. Thank you very much. All right, now we will move on to our next section, which is discussion action. The first item A is consider the preliminary 17-18 budget. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Reich. And tonight we'd like to have our presentation of our preliminary 17-18 budget. This time of year, we take this in portions, and so this is a portion of the general budget and the forecast and things like that. So, Ms. Powell.
Good evening, President Reich, Dr. Cavazos, board members. This is the first time that we've had the 2017-18 budget before you all for a discussion item. And as Dr. Cavazos just mentioned, what we'll focus on this evening will be the general fund. At our meeting on Tuesday, June 13th, we can have additional discussion around the general fund budget, but we will also be presenting the preliminary budgets for the other funds for which you all adopt a budget at this point in the year. I always take a moment before we really get started in this to say thank you. This is an effort that literally starts immediately after winter break, and it involves an enormous number of people. It starts out at the campuses and in departments with teachers and staff submitting requests and working with their department administrators and their principals on their needs. The secretaries who actually key in budgets for schools and departments, the principals who review them and then discuss them with their campus site-based teams. Then departments as well submitting their budgets. We have a review process for departments where every department head comes in and meets with me and my finance team, and we go through their budgets and review them and make adjustments there. And then Mr. Kale and his staff do have an enormous part of all of this with the staffing process, and I commend his group for the way that they handled that year after year. This year things seem to go particularly well, and that and smooth, and I think our principals appreciate that, and I know the finance staff appreciates how well that went this year. Also, superintendent staff reviews budgets. We work with the superintendents and and make adjustments as necessary to ever get the budget to a point that we can bring this to you all. So I thank all of them, and most especially my staff, Tony Drollinger, Mandy Mew, Stephanie Dalla. They are the ones that do really the yeoman's work to pull all this together. It's like a whole bunch of puzzle pieces that we finally put together, and I think it seems like it always comes together about 3 o'clock on the afternoon before we make the presentation, and this year was no different. So, thank you all very, very much. So tonight we are going to do several things. We'll look at the adoption timeline. We'll look at projections for the current year budgets. It kind of always gives us a good sense of where we are and how we're doing. It helps us as we begin to build the budget for the upcoming year. Then we'll start talking about 17-18. We'll look at things on which the budget is based. Enrollment's a key driver for both revenue expenditures. We'll also look at property values, and we'll talk about staffing. And then we'll also look at other new items to the budget, other things that we still can consider. In terms of the schedule, tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to talk primarily about the general fund, and we'll talk about staffing needs. We'll have some conversation around compensation, and then in a separate agenda item, we'll ask the board to vote on a proposed tax rate that we will include in the notice that goes in the newspaper about the hearing that we're required to have on our tax rate and proposed budget. Tuesday night, there will be another board meeting, and again, we will discuss the preliminary budget for all funds. And then June 22nd, we're scheduled to bring back a proposed budget to the board, and at that time, board can make any additional changes and to that budget, and then ultimately, we hope that evening that the board would adopt the budget. By law, we have to adopt the budget by June 30th because our fiscal year begins July 1st. We will actually not receive our certified property values until July 25th. And so once we receive those certified values, we will come back to the board in August and ask you all to adopt the tax rate. So the first thing we're going to start with is a quick overview of the current year and our budget, both the original adopted budget and then our projection of where we think we'll actually end this year. And so I direct your attention to the green line in the middle of the screen. This is operating deficit, surplus and deficit. We adopted a budget that had a $14.6 million operating deficit for this current year. However, at this point, what we are projecting is that we will actually end the year with a $5.8 million surplus. And if you look in the far right-hand column, you'll see some bullet points articulating very briefly the reasons for the differences between our adopted budget and where we think we'll actually end the year. And it's a combination of things that all net out to a positive variance in that $5.8 million projected surplus. On the revenue side, our certified property values were quite a bit better than we had projected when we built the budget. Again, those come in after the budget's actually adopted. So that was a big boost to our revenues. We actually had a dip in enrollment, but we also received a $2 million payment that had not been budgeted for originally. It was a prior year state aid payment that we received by appealing property values that were used in the state aid formulas for that year. And interest rates were higher. We actually are projecting to have about $800,000, I believe, more money in investment revenues than we had budgeted for this year. So those things combined result in an $11 million positive variance on revenues. On the expenditure side, our expenditures are coming in about $9.5 million less than we had budgeted. And again, that's due to a combination of things, including position vacancy patterns. So positions are vacant. There's not money being spent on them at the time. And so those vacancy patterns varied somewhat from what we had anticipated. So that resulted in some savings. Also, we made very diligent efforts during the year to look at positions as they came vacant, and if a position was not needed, then we closed the position. And so that helped. And then actually the weather even helped us in terms of utilities. We had a mild winter, and also through our plant services department, we've run a rather aggressive energy management program. Those things coupled with the upgraded equipment that we are installing through both the 2009 bond program and now into the 2014 bond program, we have more energy efficient equipment, and we're continuing to see savings in utilities. So all those things combined result in an expenditure projection that is $9.5 million less than the original budget. So the bottom half of the screen, below that middle green line, shows you expenditures out of fund balance that we purposefully made. We took surplus fund balance and used them for one-time type purchases in the past year. One of those purchases includes the construction of a 9th grade center at Sam Houston High School. That work began during this year, and the construction will actually carry over into next year. And so some of those $17.1 million that was committed by the board as part of the adopted budget will be spent now, and then the remainder of it will be spent next year. So we will consume all the $17.1 million. We also appropriated funds during the year to purchase some land, $9.1 million out of surplus fund balance, and then about $500,000, roughly just under $500,000 for net zero features for our Ag Science Center. And so all those things are factored into that $16.3 million expense that you see that we're projecting to end this year with. So that, again, we'll have about $10 million still remaining on the Sam Houston project from that original $17.1 million commitment. And those funds you'll see budgeted during, when we get to the slide for the 17-18 presentation. So that gives you a look at this current year. We expect that we will end the year with a fund balance of about $194.2 million. Very healthy fund balance. That's over 4 months of operating expenses, and credit rating agencies want to see that we have 2 months of operating expenses. So again, very strong fund balance. Several key points here on revenues, on property values, which are a key part of determining our revenues. We are projecting that property values will actually increase right at 8% this year, and that's based on preliminary values that we have received from the Tarrant Appraisal District as of May 15th. On the maintenance and operations tax rate side, our current tax rate is $1.04 for maintenance and operations. The law would let us go up to $1.17. However, any increase above our current rate of $1.04 would require voter approval. And at this time, it is administration's recommendation that we keep our current rate of $1.04. We're not recommending any change there. On state aid, the other large piece of revenue or source of revenue for the general fund, there is no new money that has been appropriated by the legislature. The legislature just adjourned at the end of May, and while there were a couple of school finance bills filed, those died, and there's been no new money appropriated for public education. And no changes to the funding formulas either. Enrollment, property taxes, and state aid and tax collections all impact state aid. And so all these things combined will impact our revenues. The other thing that is important to know is that as our property values go up, we actually get less money from the state. And they actually use last year's property values to determine your state aid for any given year. So our property values were up a good bit last year. Those higher values are incorporated into the state funding formulas, and so we'll actually see a tick of a decrease in one element of the funding formulas because our property values are rising. The other thing we always point out is that there's absolutely no factor in the state funding formulas for inflation. So unless the legislature acts to increase the basic allotment that is part of the very core component of the school finance formulas, we will have no increase in our state funding. In terms of expenditures, on obviously the big expense for us is payroll, as you'll see on a slide in just a moment. In terms of staffing, we use formulas to staff all of our campuses, and we apply those formulas against our enrollment projections. And so this year's staffing levels are based on enrollment projections and our programming needs. We actually have a reduction of about 132 positions in this year's budget compared to last year, due largely to lower enrollment projections. They're also netted against that is some additional staff for operating the new Career Tech Center that will open this year and the Ag Science Center. And also we have an addition of 17 gifted and talented positions or teaching positions. Those teacher positions were approved by the board a year ago as part of a plan to revise our elementary school gifted and talented program. It was a 2-year phase-in. In terms of operating cost, all the costs in our budget align with our strategic plan. And we have evolved to a point where we are very disciplined in building a budget around the strategic plan and not including ancillary things that are not necessary and that don't support that strategic plan. We also have accounted for in here the opening of the Dan Dipert Career Tech Center and the Ag Science Center. We point out here that the preliminary budget that we're about to look at does not yet include any provision for a raise. We always bring the budget first to the board with no raise built in and then discuss what options we might have for salary increases. In terms of fund balance, we talked just a moment ago about the Sam Houston High School 9th grade center. That construction will actually be completed during the 17-18 fiscal year from funds that were committed by the board a year and a half or so ago. And then the unassigned fund balance that we're budgeting at the end of this upcoming year equals just right at 4 months of operating expense. So again, very, very healthy fund balance. This slide shows a history of our property values. And you can see the bar on the far right shows that we are projecting our property values to be $25.7 billion. And as I mentioned a minute ago, that's an increase of about 8%. We received preliminary values in May 15th, and we always know that people appeal their values at that point. And so we always expect that our property values will drop from the time we get the preliminary values in May and the time they're actually certified in July. So we allow for that decline from appeals. In terms of enrollment, we are projecting that our enrollment will be 61,133 students next year. That is a bit of a decrease, just over 1,000 students from this current school year. This is a very high-level summary of the budget. You have at your place in notebooks the full budget document that has the detail of what we're covering tonight. But in terms of just trying to summarize it for a rather organized and succinct discussion, we boil it down to total revenues, total expenditures. So the revenues that you see budgeted here, the column that is highlighted on the screen, it looks almost green. It should actually be orange. But the revenues we're budgeting are $497.8 million. That's about $616,000 more than last year's original budget for revenue. On the expenditure side, we are presenting to you a preliminary budget that has $506.7 million of expenditures, and that's actually $5.1 million less than last year. So you can see that the operating bottom line that we're proposing or presenting to you this evening is a deficit of about $8.9 million. as compared to that operating deficit of $14.6 million that we adopted for this current year. So the surplus has decreased here by $5.7 million. Again, adding on to the bottom of that, our expenditures from fund balance, you can see that we anticipate that we will spend $10.7 million from that original commitment of $17.1 million for the Sam Houston Ninth Grade Center, and finish that work this year. So if the budget were adopted exactly as it looks right here, our ending fund balance next June 30th would be $174.5 million. So just in looking at revenues in total, you can see where we get our money. This particular year, 52% of our revenues will come from local property taxes, and 42% of that will come from state aid. The other two pieces, other local, includes interest income, some student fees, rental income, and various other miscellaneous revenues. The federal piece that you see here of 1% is really a very, very small piece of total federal revenue that we receive. This is only federal revenue that we can use for general operating purposes. We receive a number of grants, and those are all accounted for as special revenue funds, and those budgets are brought to you once we have approval from TEA for those grants, or a granting agency. So the total, again, budget that we're presenting for revenue for next year, $497.8 million. On the expenditure side, you can see that the biggest expense that we incur, obviously, is payroll. And again, that's because we are a service provider, and so it takes people to provide those services. The next biggest piece is purchased and contracted services, and that's 7% of our budget. And the big piece there are utilities. And so between payroll and utilities, that makes up 93% virtually of our entire budget. And then you see the other categories, they're much, much smaller percentages. Looking at a projection out to the end of next year on our fund balance, again, if we were to adopt the budget exactly as you see it this evening, we would end the year with approximately 4 months of operating expense and fund balance. Very healthy fund balance. Highlights of the general fund budget, we base our campus staffing, again, off of enrollment projections and off of staffing ratios. Those staffing ratios were approved by the board in December before the staffing process began. And you can see here a breakdown, high-level breakdown of the change in staffing at the campus levels. And these changes are already incorporated into the budget. Approximately 132 fewer positions this upcoming year compared to what was budgeted last year in the adopted budget. That includes, though, 17 new teaching positions for elementary gifted and talented programs. It includes 13 professional staff for operating or actually total professional and paraprofessionals staff operating the Career Tech Center. This would be the building principal, the assistant principal, the counselor, the nurse, the secretarial staff at that building. And STEM lab managers. We also have included 34 STEM lab managers. These positions are supporting the STEM labs that are being constructed through the bond program. So as a school is about to take possession and start using their STEM lab, we add in the STEM lab manager. So these positions come on at various points during the year. We have funded in here the strategic plan strategies that have been identified for year 2. There are strategies in the performance objective categories of academic achievement, workforce readiness, and leadership, citizenship, and responsibility. You can see here in parentheses the number of strategies that apply to each of those objective categories. There are 9 strategies in particular for academic achievement, 1 in support of workforce readiness, and 3 supporting leadership, citizenship, and responsibility. So the next several slides I'll go through quickly, but they just call out some of the activities that are included in the budget to support those strategic plan strategies. In the area of academic achievement, we have activities that include developing curriculum writing and revision process that articulates instructional approaches, learning targets, and formative assessments, some work in the student assessment area to implement equating and scaling of student assessment data to help teachers interpret the results of those tests and better adjust their instruction to meet student needs. We're incorporating appropriate test design theories into the design of local assessments and developing leadership professional learning plan. Also in the academic achievement category, we have activities including increasing students' equity of access to instruction, facilities, and extracurricular, co-curricular programs, expanding world language programs, implementing instructional model that supports purposeful collaborative planning and effective instructional delivery and assessment, expanding pre-K offerings, mainly by working with our community pre-K partners to expand offerings in daycare centers, and aligning our resources to curriculum outcomes and instructional priorities. In the area of workforce readiness activities, we will open the Dan Dipert Career Tech Center and open the Ag Science Center, and we will expand our dual credit opportunities. Under the performance objective category of leadership, citizenship, and responsibility, we have activities focusing around PBIS and enhancing cultural awareness, culture of respect, integrity, and responsibility among students, and enhancing core leadership competencies, and also continuing work that began this year on customer service. Other items that are not specifically called out as strategic plan activities for this year, but are closely tied to strategies that began in year one of our strategic plan. We are adding, again, 17 teachers for the elementary level gifted and talented program. Our early college high school is accepting its 4th cohort, so it will have students from 9th grade through 12th grade in that campus. And then our 2 fine arts dual language academies will be accepting their 3rd cohort. We'll spit that out in a minute. Cohort of students. And then similarly, the STEM Academy at Martin High School will be accepting its 3rd cohort of students. So those are things that are already built into the budget. And what we want to visit with you about now are some additional considerations that could be added into the budget should we choose to do so in the coming weeks. And those include compensation, health insurance, and new positions. In terms of compensation, the slide that's on the screen right now is...
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
One moment.
Sure.
Would trustees like to ask questions on this portion of the presentation? Or wait until the end? I have some nods. I have some keep going. I have 2 nods. Seems the majority says keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay, all righty. So what you see on the screen is our current salary range for teachers. We have a beginning salary of $51,500, a midpoint of $61,500, and a maximum of $71,500. We committed several years ago to have TASB look at our salary schedules each year and tell us how we compare to our comparison group, market comparison group for all of our positions, and then to make recommendations to us on the salary schedules themselves, the pay ranges, what adjustments might need to be made to those in order to keep them competitive with the market. So what you see here in that second column, that market average for all teachers, that is the market average from the TASB salary study of our market comparison group for this current year. This bar chart, or line chart rather, shows how we compare to our comparison districts. AISD is the red line, and the blue line represents our comparison group. We actually compare rather favorably in total. We are above the market median up to about year 8, And from that point up to about year 17, we're just below the market median. And then we come back again above that market median by about year 20. One of the things we always do each year is we prepare a preliminary budget for consideration, is calculate what a raise might cost. We always start with a 1% raise. I mean, that's a very easy point of reference that you can apply math to very simply to determine other increments of a raise. So a 1% raise would cost us $3,683,000, and that would be across the board for all eligible employees. So you can simply do the math on that. A 2% raise would cost twice that amount at $7.4 million, or 2.25% would cost $8.3 million, and 2.5% would cost $9.2 million. We have had conversations with districts around us, and what we are hearing from everyone is they are looking at a possible salary increase of 2%, very consistent this year. The one district that has told us something other than that has said that they are considering between a 1% and a 2% salary increase. They haven't decided yet. So it appears that a 2% raise is the common theme across all of our districts, our neighboring districts. So in looking at our salary schedule, we are proposing a teacher salary range that would increase from $51,500 as the beginning salary to a beginning salary for this upcoming year of $52,500. And that would give us we'd have a midpoint of $62,750 and a maximum of $73,000. In terms of health insurance, AISD is a member of TRS Active Care, along with approximately 90% of all the school districts in Texas. We all know that once you join TRS Active Care, the law prohibits districts from withdrawing from that plan. And we have today 4,959 of our employees. It's about 57% of our total employee base that participate in TRS Active Care. And so each year we have to look now at some requirements of the Affordable Care Act to make sure that we stay compliant with that. There's provision that we provide an affordable health care plan to all employees. We meet that right now with our current district contribution, and so that's a test that we have already conducted. TRS offers basically 4 broad plans, and this is a breakdown of how our employees participate in those plans. The majority of people who take insurance through TRS Active Care, the majority of our employees who do, are on the TRS Active Care 1, which is the high deductible plan. We also offer a wellness program. It's offered to all employees at no cost, and not just to employees who take health insurance. You have to meet certain point requirements in order to stay in the plan, but for those employees who participate in health insurance and choose to participate in the wellness plan, we contribute an additional $20 per month to their health insurance premiums. So 1,633 of our employees participate in the plan this year. We do know that TRS has just last week approved premiums for the upcoming year, and the premium increases range anywhere from 2.9% for employees only on that high deductible plan, up to as high as 25.5% for employee family coverage under the Active Care 2 plan. And as a point of context, for an employee only on that Active Care 1 plan, that 2.9% increase is $10 a month. There are also other changes being made to the benefits, and we should point that out. So it's not just an increase in premiums, they are also making adjustments to certain benefits on each of these plans. So one of the things we could look at doing is again, as an option as we look at total compensation, is increasing the contribution towards health insurance. And a $10 increase would cover the increase of premium for TRS members on that high deductible plan, employee only. And so that would bring, for professional employees, that would bring the total monthly contribution to $245, and for all other employee groups to $260. That would cost us $595,000 to implement. So if you couple a higher contribution from the district with that $20 per month that individuals on the wellness plan can also earn towards health insurance, our contribution then would be a total of $265 per month for employees, for professional employees, and $280 a month for all other employee groups. We also have needs for some additional positions that we bring to you for consideration as part of the preliminary budget. And again, the dollars for these positions are not yet factored into the budget that you have before you. So there are 22 positions that we have screened and ultimately are recommending be added. And so that would ultimately cost $1.2 million. 3 of those positions, however, actually generate a savings because they're positions, they're hourly positions that right now we are providing through overtime and part-time temp work. And so we would eliminate the overtime and the part-time temp pay, and instead of that pay base salary for full-time positions. So that would actually result in a little bit of savings. So the net cost of these 22 new positions to the district, $1.2 million. And we see a list of them here, ranging from 6 positions for dyslexia, then you see all the way down individual positions, both professional positions and auxiliary positions and paraprofessional positions. A database administrator for the Research and Accountability Department, a secretary for our area superintendents. They do not have one-to-one secretary coverage at the moment. And the secretaries in that department provide extensive service to our schools, and so this is an addition that would help us serve our schools better. Arlington Collegiate High School is, as I mentioned a minute ago, taking their 4th cohort of students. With that additional student load, the school needs a new counselor and a data clerk. We also need to add an occupational therapist to meet caseload, and then a library media services specialist, one of those, an HR leaves and retirement specialist to help us manage primarily leaves. And then several positions in the auxiliary areas. There are 4 positions that have been requested for the grounds department as we open Peach and McNutt, and now the Career Tech Center and the Ag Science Center. We've added acreage to be maintained. And then similarly on the general maintenance mechanics, those are building techs. 2 of those have been requested, and again, helps us, these positions will help us maintain the additional square footage that we have been opening in the last couple of years. These are the 3 positions that we propose to add that will ultimately not cost the district anything, because we will come along and reduce part-time temp budgets in our budget for overtime. We have a position, a warehouse driver for the textbooks department, and then 2 positions in the primary warehouse that help us managing salvage equipment and furniture and repairing those items as necessary. This slide, there's a lot of stuff on this slide, but this is a summary, very high-level summary, showing you what these different options, these different things could cost us if they're added into the budget. So column 1 is the preliminary budget that you have in the budget book that's been given to you and that we've just looked at with an $8.9 million operating deficit. If we did nothing but add a 2% raise just for comparison's sake, a 2% raise, then that deficit, that operating deficit would move to $16.2 million. If we did the raise and we increased the health insurance contribution by $10 a month, you can see in column 3 what that would ultimately cost. And we would end up with an operating deficit of $16.8 million. And finally, on column 4, that option would include a 2% raise, increasing the health insurance contribution, and adding those 22 positions that we've just discussed, and that would bring us to a deficit of $18 million in our operating deficit. We still, across all of them, you see we have the expenditure from funds, surplus fund balance that was committed previously by this board for Sam Houston's new 9th grade center. And then ultimately at the very bottom of the slide, you can see what the ending fund balance would be under each of these different scenarios. So again, this was a very high-level first look at the general fund preliminary budget. We'll come back on Tuesday, can have some additional discussion about any of this along with preliminary budgets for the other funds. And then we'll hold our public hearing on June 22nd as required by law on the budget and the proposed tax rate, and discuss the budget again. And the board can make any other final adjustments at that point. We'll adopt the budget by June 30th, and then we will receive our certified property values in July and adopt a tax rate in August. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for the comprehensive first look. Appreciate it, Ms. Powell. Ms. Mays.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Powell. I know budgeting is never easy. So I just have a few questions. My first one, the budget made me think of it, but landscaping and groundskeeping, is that one of our tech classes we're going to be offering?
We don't have a landscaping class yet. That is something that possibly in a future phase of the Ag Science Center, we may move into turf management, and there may be an avenue through that that we could explore.
Okay, sorry, I just snuck that in. It made me think about it. I have a question on our compensation. If we go to the slide that says teacher salary market comparisons. So my question is, I understand you're making recommendations so we can see how the changes in the budget would be. So for your recommendation to increase teachers' starting salaries, I guess my question would be, looking at this market comparison, it looks like, at least for this year, that the amount that AISD is paying is a little bit higher than market. But then between those years of 8 and 17, did we or could we look at increasing the salary for that gap? So in other words, increasing the beginning salary for teachers if we're already slightly above market, but then we've got that gap in the middle. Have we considered, or can we maybe see some numbers if we were to try to impact that 9-year gap there,
Yes.
where we actually fall below budget?
And the way you can do that are through equity adjustments. And so you identify particular ranges that you want to adjust, and then target the dollar amounts that it would take to get you to a particular point you're trying to reach, and then give those people the equity adjustment on top of the base raise that you would give others.
So before our next meeting, could we kind of have an idea of what that would cost if we were to do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to go backwards. Okay, so for the one of the general fund highlights, the one for leadership, citizenship, and responsibility activities, did you say that that's mainly for PBIS?
There are components here that will be implemented through PBIS or in conjunction with the PBIS program, yes.
Okay. So for our 3 bullet points that we have there, enhancing cultural awareness, culture of respect, integrity, So the general funds that we're highlighting is additional monies or monies that we're spending to make sure that these, for example, these 3 bullet points are being included?
These things are already built into the budget, yes.
Okay.
They're work that will be done by various departments.
Okay, so are we increasing what we're
No,
spending?
not necessarily, because each year, you know, each year we will have some amount, I'm going to use staff development as an example. Each year there is staff development built into the budget. One year that staff development may be for one particular focus, the next year for another. So there's not necessarily net additions into the budget for these items. We can go back through and see for certain, but overall, our strategic plan activities do not necessarily result in net increases to the budget, because each year we're just targeting our work around specific things, and sometimes that focus one year may be on one particular area, the next year it's on a different area. The dollars may not change.
Okay. Continuing on our general fund highlights, under academic achievement activities, increasing students' equity to access to instruction, facilities, and extracurricular/co-curricular activities. Our extracurricular and co-curricular activities, we could possibly be talking about, and I'm just going to use it for an example since it was brought up, color guard.
Could
Is
be,
this an
yes, and we have
example?
funds in the budget to assist with some additional contracted color guard instruction for next year.
But this is where it would fall, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then also on general fund highlights, STEM lab managers. So we're adding positions for our additional, where we have 2 STEM labs now in our schools. Are we also adding money in the budget for additional, hopefully new curriculum to be used within our STEM labs?
There has been curriculum that is developed on specific lessons, and yes, that's being delivered through professional development to our teachers at the elementary level. It's science, technology, math teachers, so they're getting training on how to use those labs for specific lessons. So yes, that's provided for within professional development.
Okay. And I guess the reason why I asked that is because my excitement to see the new STEM labs being put in all of the elementary schools was because they would now be exposed to a higher level of
Right.
learning for
Right.
STEM. So I would assume we would do some different, newer curriculums. Then on our revenue and other resource budget, I just want to make sure that this is clear, and this would be for anyone who's watching or anyone who wants to understand how very simple, basic funding is for the school. You've got 46% for state, and if we are receiving no additional funding for state, and property taxes doesn't hit what we're estimating it might be and it's less, looking at that pie chart, we're saying we would then have to find some other way, don't know how because we can't control federal, other local is just a small percent, but basically that leaves a gap of incoming revenue. Am I correct?
You are correct. We try to be very careful when we project our local property values so that we don't over-project for that very reason.
And I appreciate that because it can make a big difference. Student enrollment history. Our decline for about 1,000 students is what we're estimating this to be. Can you give maybe some of the highlighted reasons of what the anticipated, I'm assuming you're thinking that this would be a drop that would be consistent through the next year?
This is what we're projecting for next year, and we've staffed based on that enrollment projection. I think that what we see, and we're working with our contracted demographer on this, along with, we've actually engaged Gibson Consulting to help us look at enrollment trends and specifically focus on families that have withdrawn from our district. And we've gotten some very high-level information from them. We anticipate the draft report from Gibson just by the early part of next week, actually. with all the details. But it's a combination of things. It's everything from, we are seeing from both parties reports of lower birth rates that began in roughly 2008, 9, 10, when the economy was down. And so now, as those children have begun to enter our schools, then we're seeing lower enrollments in those earlier grades. And then also there has been development on the north side of Arlington where some apartments that had a large number of families have been torn down. And honestly, we expected to see a more pronounced dip last year because we anticipated that some of those students might not stay with us. That didn't seem to occur so much last year, but this year it has in the current school year. And so those students have left us, and we anticipate that, that we will not see new growth in that area from apartments at this time for this upcoming year. We also have students who leave us to enroll perhaps in charter schools and make other choices. Gibson has told us that they've actually conducted a survey of parents who withdrew kids in the last year. And actually the largest percentage of students who left us were leaving us because of a family or a life type change. A parent was transferred or relocated for some reason. That was the larger percentage. They just moved physically out of our district more so than they just chose to leave our schools, but we're still living here.
Okay.
So it's a combination of things.
Okay, thank you, and I'll be real interested in hearing the information from the survey, because I think that's good data that we can use, just so we can determine if it's something that's within our control and how that could impact our budget.
I will say too that we continue to work on recruiting and marketing efforts, if you will, with students. And so we have out-of-district transfers. Our out-of-district transfers that we have been able to place for this upcoming year, that number is up from last year. As of this point, we have placed 163 students from outside the district, and that's up from 103 last year. And we still will have opportunities this summer to bring in some students who have applied who we have not yet placed because we're waiting to see how enrollments shake out, so to speak, at the campuses that they requested. And so we're working on that actively now.
Okay. Do the demographers include a calculation for our foster and our homeless student population?
Yes, and they do that because they are starting first and foremost with enrollment. So if we have kids who have been enrolled with us in a previous year, and those foster kids are already enrolled here, they are part of the data and part of the population that is trended out to project the following year's enrollment.
Okay. And then my last question on enrollment, for the decline in enrollment, have we looked to see if that is spread out throughout the district, or are we seeing drops in enrollment in concentrated areas within the district?
We've seen our biggest drop this year was on the north side of town, and again, that's where I think there were 4 apartment complexes that had a number of families in them were torn down over the last year and a half, actually. And so we've seen dramatic changes, the most dramatic changes in all of the schools on the north side of Arlington.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I said my last question on enrollment. I actually have one more. How well is the district working with our surrounding cities where we encompass their student population? For instance, Grand Prairie City, where AISD encompasses that, and the increase of their building of apartments. Are we maintaining information back and forth as to how that may impact or may not impact our student enrollment?
We do. There are some new apartments that are being built along I-20 and 360 roughly that are in the city of Grand Prairie. We have had specific conversations with folks at the city of Grand Prairie about those complexes. The majority of those will not yield many students. They're geared more towards folks in their 20s. Professionals don't have that many bedrooms in them. There's one, I believe there's one of those apartments that may have, may be a little more geared towards having some families, because more of the units have 2 and 3 bedrooms than others.
Okay. And then my last, on the very first slide, we were talking about just the general fund budget. You talked about positions that were vacant, and you looked at some of those positions to decide if they needed to be filled or not. How did you make that decision? Were they already vacant, or was someone in it and vacated it, and then you decided we didn't
They
need
were,
it? Or how did you make?
some of both. In some cases, they were vacant and had been vacant even into the previous year. And after looking at them, said they shouldn't have been there to begin with, and were able to close them. The HR department does a very good job during the leveling process early each fall in moving teachers around to match our enrollment, to meet enrollment needs. And so if we happen to have vacant positions, teaching positions at that point, and a campus no longer qualified for that unit because of their enrollment, then we simply did not fill that position.
Okay. And then just one other question. For some positions that have gone away because they were funded through grants, in particular, I'm thinking of one where it aided after-school activities, where there was actual person there who was being paid to help do some of the things that PBIS is doing. When we lose those grants, but we know that there's a need for those positions within our district, do we look to try to fill those as actual payrolled positions?
Yes, if it is an established employee position, and we know that a grant may be ending, we'll look to see if there's another grant source that could possibly fund the position. We'll evaluate the need for the position going forward, and whether it's something that we can prioritize within all of our needs within the general fund. In some cases, we do that. I can't call any specifically that are in here that we've made that kind of a move for this year.
Okay. Okay. And then the last thing I want to say is the key points for state aid, and we were talking about the legislature and how the couple of bills that we thought may go through actually died. Just want to put my plug in that just because those bills died, we'll make sure that public education does not. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sullins.
Thank you, Dr. Rush. Ms. Powell, could you remind me, going into this legislative session, the amount of our unfunded mandates each year? About?
It was approximately 82
About 80
million-ish, I think, yes.
That's just a round number.
Mhm.
So that's $160 million for the biennium. So
Yes.
by the time that,
Mhm.
so that's and now we have a special session.
Yes.
That looks like it has a large amount of unfunded mandates that we're reading about in the news. Speaker spoke about this evening. So, and we don't know yet what the footprint of the regular session was. So while they're sorting that out, we don't know exactly what the footprint may be on new unfunded mandates in addition to the 80 million, right?
That's correct.
We have an idea of when we'd know that?
The special session will begin July 18th, and by law, it can only last 30 days. Certainly, the governor could call additional special session or sessions if necessary. So it would be probably mid-August at the earliest before we have completely exhausted the time period for the items that the governor has announced will be on that agenda for the upcoming special session. So it could be mid-August.
And I know that it was just announced, the special session, but have you had opportunity to estimate about how much the salary adjustment would be in I assume, an unfunded mandate in Arlington
The salary
schools?
adjustment that is called for is $1,000 for teachers. There are no details yet around that. We've heard some information today from a consultant that they think that the intent may not have been every single teacher necessarily, but may include some element of performance in there. We won't know until we see a bill filed. And so we just, all we have at the moment is the little blurb from the governor's announcement to consider $1,000 pay increase for teachers. So, you know, we have 4,200 teachers at $1,000 apiece. So we can do the math on that. You know, that $1,000 for us represents about a 2% raise, which is what we're looking at. The other big unknown with that item that the governor has announced, is that agenda item, is whether that raise would be on top of what we are already planning to do. The state has done that in years past. They have actually, in some years, given us new money and said, you have to use this money to give a teacher salary increase, but it has to be on top of the raise that you were already planning to give or have already given. And so that's another unknown. It doesn't seem to be, at the moment, what we're hearing from different sources, that the intent is that that is on top of what a district may already do. But until we see an actual bill and the language in a bill, we don't know for certain.
Okay. But what we do know is that we're probably have 160-ish million in unfunded mandates before it all started. We didn't see any significant legislation that removed any of that, so likely that the regular session might have increased it, and then the special session is looming, and we also have requirement to get our budget done. And we know that that is the circumstance when we move to this budget cycle, but you know, we'll have maybe more uncertainty than we have had in what our revenues look like and what maybe required expenditures will be this year. So,
You're right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullins. Ms. Hudson.
Thank you, President Reich. Just a couple of questions for additional information to maybe be brought to us. I don't know that you would have the information tonight, but what the expected inflation rate is?
We can get that. It's been very low for the last couple of years, but we can get that.
I appreciate it. You guys asked a lot of good questions. You took a lot of them, so thank you. And then when we look at the premium increases, can we see what that looks like in real numbers? So, for instance, you mentioned one of them might just be a $10 increase, which seems pretty nominal. Is that what it is for most of our employees?
No.
That 25% increase looks pretty concerning. Is that impactful to a great number of our teachers and their families, or is that a smaller number?
Well, again, the majority of folks who, let me go back to that slide, who take health insurance through us are in that plan, that high deductible plan. And I'd have to get the breakdown between employee only, employee spouse, employee children, employee family. So that's where the biggest percentage of our participants are. Certainly as you move on up into the other plans, then the monthly increases become much more significant. I don't have a slide that has that on there, but I mean, I can give you just you know, a ballpark. A employee only on on the TRS Active Care 2, that coverage is going up roughly $105 per month for employee only. On the Active Care Select plan, an employee only premium is going up roughly $20 a month. And then on that high deductible plan, the employee only premium is going up $10 a month. So it ranges. Obviously the larger increases are being borne by families in that coverage.
So do we know how much the 25% increase would be to the Active Care 2?
the 20, on active care too.
Yeah, for a family.
So for a
I guess.
family?
I'm
Yes.
assuming that's what the highest increase would be.
Yes, and let me do the quick math here. It's
Ms. Hudson, I think
it's
the highest percentage
four-
increase is
397,
on
that's
actually just
different
the
than what I
children.
had.
The families, if you look at percentages, I was looking at across the state the other day.
So if you were a parent who was only carrying yourself and your kids on there, that's where it's gonna be the
I think
highest.
that's the highest percentage-wise for the whole state on the premium cost increase, if I remember the document correctly. Now, dollar-wise, a little different story, but if we're talking just percentage-wise, I think that is the number. And Mr. Drollinger, could y'all just send, I think, Ms. Hudson,
Yeah, I'm
can
totally
y'all
fine
send
with
us that
sending it.
document?
Yeah.
We've got
And I
that.
know the state's put out, and sorry, Ms. Hudson, I didn't mean
No,
to
it's
jump in.
okay.
The state's put out some documents that list how many people are enrolled in each plan. I think it'd help us to see how many enrolled in
Thank
our
you.
plan.
Yes,
Of
I was
the-
about to ask for that.
Of the
Yes.
4,900, how many enrolled are in each?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I
each
was
plan.
asking for, is like, for me, it would be helpful to see, like, what's that real impact to people and on the people in our district in
It's just a
particular.
more detailed breakdown of this pie chart.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
within each of these slices. How many are employee only, how many are employee child? Yes, we've got that.
I would also, I would like to learn more about, I didn't realize that we had any payroll positions that were being funded by boosters. I would just like to learn more about that, if that's a pretty
I
unique
think
thing,
what
or.
those boosters were referring to is it's not funding a district position, it's funding some contracted service, I believe, is what that is.
Okay,
We
so
don't
that's
have
more
any
of a school
positions
level.
that are funded
Okay.
by contributions from an outside organization. We have grants, but in terms of a PTA or a booster club, providing funding for positions, we don't have any of those type positions.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. I'm equally concerned about just sort of that possible mandate of $1,000 raise and what that might end up meaning to us, but I guess there's not much to be done about that except to wait and watch for now. So I appreciate it. I know a lot of work goes into this. I also appreciate the continuing education that you and Mr. Drollinger have given me to help me understand everything. It's been very helpful.
Sure,
So thank you very much.
Kind of to piggyback on what you just said, I think we would be wise to give this a little more time with the state to see if we can identify more what the details are on that raise before taking any action there. We have a few weeks still.
Thank you. Ms. Hudson, Ms. Mays, I see your light flashing. Do you have just a brief follow-up?
Brief, I caught that.
Yes. So I'd like to give other trustees opportunity.
Of course. On the salary increase, I just wanted to confirm that your 1, 2, 2.25, 2.5 are for salaries for teachers only?
No,
Or all employees?
that's all employees.
Okay.
Yes, all eligible employees.
Okay. And then on the AISD wellness plan, I just wanted to make sure, the 1,633 employees that participate, that's out of the 57% that are actually participating in a health plan, correct?
Not necessarily. We
No.
have some members of the wellness plan who do not take our health insurance. So they can participate free in the wellness plan. They get the benefits of having the biometric screenings and receiving the different support and case management, if you will, in some cases, or coaching, but they do not participate necessarily in the health insurance plan.
Okay, so they don't get an additional
They don't get the additional
$10 in their
$20 in
paycheck.
compensation anywhere.
$20. Okay. So the wellness plan, we pay for this, and this is in our budget,
Yes.
correct? Have we stopped to really analyze the program to make sure that it really is cost? Have we looked at the costs and the benefits? I'm looking at the number of employees that participate. Are we doing anything to increase the participation in our wellness plan?
We are, and one of the things we'd like to do, and the dollars are built in here, is work with our campuses to pay a small stipend for somebody to be the champion, if you will, of the wellness plan on each campus to help promote the plan and the activities that are associated with the plan.
Okay, and then I guess the last thing, and this was probably kind of what Kristen was saying, and I guess what a lot of us are thinking, is once we get a chance to look at the insurance and the cost, maybe inflation, and then we're looking at the raises, you know, are we talking about a wash? Is it one of those things which I know I've experienced on my job many times where, oh, you're going to get a raise, oh, but we're going to increase this, so it nets out to nothing, and sometimes it actually takes out more. But at least with that additional information, I think it'll help us, you know what are we really saying and what is it really looking like. Yeah, what's the true impact?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Mays. I appreciate it. Good information. Mr. Hogg.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Luckily, the state made this easy for us this year, right?
Sure. They do every year.
They do every year. Especially my fight on health insurance, of how they rob our teachers when, as a ERS employee, you could work for the DMV and have about 3 times the contribution. Ms. Powell, and I know Mr. Kale looks at this a lot, I'd actually like to see a comparison of the ERS premiums versus our premiums,
And
please.
we could do that. Mr. Kale has
I know Mr.
done
Kale and
that.
I have talked about that
We may
many
need to update the
times.
numbers, but that's one of his favorite topics.
I think it helps my board, my colleagues see what's not happening on insurance, but it also helps me blast the state, which is why I'm really asking for it in full transparency. When we look at insurance, and I'll talk about this real fast just because we were just talking about that, you know, if you compare it, you know, and I did my numbers, you know, if you do it off 4,900 that are enrolled in insurance and 1,633, it's about 33%, which is actually not bad for a wellness program. But if you do the comparison off of 8,000, it's a little low from where we are in our wellness program. So I think we've got to really consider our insurance with the wellness premium paybacks, because our wellness program is not difficult for employees to be in and cooperate in. And I think our numbers were a little higher year one, which is always pretty normal from where it comes back. Usually wellness programs take 3 to 5 years to show an ROI, and I think we're in year 2 or 3, if I remember correctly. I think our employees have to take advantage of that $20 that are in there. So I think we've got to push that a little more on that comparison. I'd also like to see a comparison, and sorry, Miss Mays, as a new secretary, we're adding your list tonight, of what our contribution is compared to other districts. You know, our normal comparison districts, where our contribution comes in to play. You know, I even took the idea of, you know, and Mr. Kale would laugh at this, you know, are we the fiduciary for this, or is the state for insurance on the responsibility? So if it was deemed unaffordable, would that be us being penalized?
No, that would be us, because.
Not the state?
I think that would be us.
I mean, I even went as far as how could we sue the state, make it unaffordable? It's us, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what I
it is
thought.
us.
I work in this industry, so any way you can fight the state in this industry, it's a good way to fight. It's, you know, the premium increases, unfortunately, are actually on par or a little better than some of the country as a whole. So, but the problem is the contributions still are way behind compared to other industries, even ERS, our friends in ERS. Ms. Powell, what about, I didn't see anything on it, federal Title I cuts. I've heard a lot of discussion over federal Title I cuts and things going away from that. I don't think we've got anything set in stone, or what are we doing to plan for that?
I don't know that, have we received our entitlement yet? I don't think we have. The federal budget that is being discussed right now will actually fund the 18-19 year, not the 17-18 year. And so, you know, in terms of looking ahead just immediately to this next fiscal year, I don't think we're expecting any, Mr. Drollinger, are you aware of any dramatic increase or decrease rather in Title I?
I'd heard some rumors of Sam was losing a fair amount of federal Title I dollars being cut.
Well, I'll have to get that
Okay.
information for you.
And when will we receive, would we receive that allotment or the
We
allocation?
usually get the entitlement in June and usually early, and we can check and see that we've gotten that, and then submit the application before July 1, usually, I think, yeah.
Mr. Hogg, Dr. Cavazos has something.
Yeah,
Just on the Title I, just in general. So there was some impact money that was received for some schools and things like that. The Title I used to fund that was coming to an end, and so that's had an impact, I think, on this staffing cycle that we have gotten and are not getting or have exhausted it. The other, this is more kind of general system-wide, is with our enrollment changes and decrease in some cases,
Right.
then that decreases the Title I
Right.
money, hence what they can do with it and things like that. So there's a variation of different reasons why the Title I money is reallocated a certain way, but we can get the details.
And I say that, and I don't suit a huge sense of urgency, but I encourage my colleagues on this board. I think we've got to start developing a 2 to 3 year plan, because I do think more of those cuts will be occurring over the next future years. So what's our contingency plan for that? As much as we yell at the state, we can yell at the feds even more, because more of that's going to be cut, especially on some of those plays. And those are major impacts. If we look at what happened when 21st century grants were cut in our out-of-school care time that decreased for our students, it was a big impact. It's not something that we directly funded, but it directly affects our district as a whole. So I would just, Ms. Mays, I don't know if you have to write down, but I would ask staff to say, in the future, in the fall, sometimes I think we need to have a discussion surrounding about with that. In the question of Ms. Mays, and I agree with you 100%, Ms. Mays, on this 8 to 17 year dip in our pay, it's an issue. I don't know if it's something we can fully fund in 1 year, because I don't know what that number is. So when that number comes back, when you and Mr. Kale and all the very smart people start looking at that, I think we look at that number. If it's something we think we can have an equity adjustment and do in a year, great. If we don't think it's something we can do in a year, I think we've got to look at a 2 to 3 year plan to start making those type of adjustments moving forward and be a little more future thinking, because we want to fix things. We may not be able to fix everything in the first year. And I think sometimes, as long as we have an action plan, we can start building budgets towards that. We all know we work on the budget all year round. This budget is a living, breathing document. It's something I think.
One thing I would insert, I'm thinking, we'll go back and work on it, probably somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000. I mean, I think it'll be
For a
less than
one-time.
$1 million, but it's going to be getting
Yeah.
closer to $1 million for equity adjustments there.
And, as we look, in Ms. Powell, I'd be interested to see, I've been emailing with one of the moms from the Color Guard, and I had no idea that was even the case. Shame on me for not knowing that was the case. I'd like to, I didn't know our Booster Club funded a type of position for that or something like that. I'd like to expand a little more and say, are there other positions like that that's happening around the district as a whole to take a whole look? Because adding something like that where I think there's value, and then I also worry about what does it open up to other areas that's coming in. I think, it'd be nice to say 6 high schools, $30,000 a year. Yeah, we're gonna find $180,000, because I do think it's an item. But then what does it open up for that longer term plan? I saw some of the emails of other districts funding 80%, 20%, 50%. I saw some of those on Richardson, Byron Nelson, Frisco. I saw some of those in an email today that were going back and forth. I just would like to know if there's other things like that that our booster clubs are funding as a whole. The one thing on this budget, I think most of my colleagues would agree, we have to always be cautious of. We've got a healthy fund balance. I'm always worried about recurring costs and fund balance. I'm not willing to risk our bond rating, no matter what, in a budget, because affecting our bond rating is a long-term, very expensive penalty for us of how we're going. I'll look at all these documents that we receive as we build this budget out to look at the different types that we're adding. And I think we've also got to consider with our lovely state, you know, all the elected officials down there would like to say, well, yeah, let's give $1,000. Will they all fund it? Probably not. So, you know, if we have some type of salary increase, well, I'd like to say we give a 2 or 3% salary increase, and then they come back and say add another 1,000 onto that. I think fiscally, I don't know how we pull that number off. I think we've got to do a contingency-based increase, and that is a hard word to say, but I think it's a realistic word, because while the state likes to say fund 1,000, we're already going to fund 1,000 for most of our teachers. We're going to do it without them having to tell us. But then if they tell us with no funding, we've got to be very cautious over that from a long-term budget perspective as a whole. That's all the questions I had tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg. Mr. Hibbs.
Ms. Powell, thank you for the detailed presentation. Mr. Hogg, you brought up some good points, and I think first and foremost is that the 2% that was even being mentioned in the presentation, that puts us over 1,000, even at the low, or even at the new beginning salary. I think it's 1,030. So the board had already long looked at that, but your caution is a true caution that we have to be very, very careful of. Is there are a few districts that have already announced that they were going to make adjustments. One district is trying to play catch up, and they put out a big number. And if the state comes back at this point and tags on top of that, they could be in deep financial trouble, with the exception of making an adjustment and having to go back. So I say that because usually it is at this time that I make a motion to say, okay, let's give salary increases, because I always like our teachers knowing what their salary increases are going to be early as they go into this. And tonight, that's not my intent. Intent is to watch what the state is doing very, very carefully. And then, we'll have a budget that's passed before the end of the month. And I think that as we're talking, we're already talking that we want to do that with some sort of raises in there. So that should give some comfort to teachers, they always, and all staff, that they at least know what that we're having those discussions in a positive manner. So, a little bit of patience on that respect. The additional point to that is that originally, Ms. Mays, when you were talking about that gap for those teachers in that 7, 15, 20-year range, I was originally going to ask you, what would you like to see that? Are you like at 1/4%, 1/2%, 3/4%? And you came back again, Mr. Hogg, and made a very good point that, we do need to kind of understand those gates because if we need to make this a 2 or 3 year plan to fully fund that, that equity adjustment, that we do it in a very strategic manner. But that is something that, again, is on our radar that we're looking at is to try to, ensure that we're constant on that plane rather than regressing. So I think that's very important for us to review too. And Ms. Powell, if we can do that, maybe showing, where the impact would be and maybe a couple of different gates, that I think that would be appreciated. I am very excited that since we've got our gifted and talented and special ed team here, and they've been troopers going through this whole thing all night. I am excited about the dyslexia program increase of the 6 new instruction teachers there, that's near and dear to my heart. And then with the 17 increased positions for the gifted and talented, does that bring us to 34 then for? 44, okay, to pretty much equal all of our campuses, our elementary campuses,
We won't
right?
have one-to-one at every elementary campus, but every elementary campus has at least a half-time person.
A half-time, so there's representation at
Yes, yes.
which for this board, when we look back even 7 years ago, that's where was something we recognized as a huge deficiency that we weren't be able to meet. So I think that as a district, we can take a high degree of satisfaction that we're addressing something that we've seen for a long time has been a deficiency. We made a increase for our auxiliary employees for bus drivers in the spring, and we recognized that there was a gap in that situation with the 2%. Just use that as a arbitrary number if that we came and said at 2%. Does that get us edged up closer to what the market rate is for the bus drivers in the Metroplex?
May I ask Mr. Kale if he can speak specifically to that. Certainly the raise that we gave.
We can come back and look at that.
Okay, let's do that.
I'll let you
But the raise that we gave last year and the adjustment we made during the year, certainly those things get us closer to market. I think Mr. Kale would share with you that we are having a lot better success in filling positions. Our transportation director, Tim Collins, actually stuck his head in my office this afternoon, and we were just chatting, and he made the comment to me that he's seeing higher quality candidates even than what he had been seeing, and so I think we're attracting a different kind of individual. I think that's reflective of the salary increases that the board has approved for those positions.
Okay. One side note, we still did not receive any transportation increases or funding, and that goes back to what, 1978 or 1984 that we're still working under the same
correct
funding of 1984 here in 2017. Can you imagine if we just had that one gap closed? You did mention when we were talking about the co-curricular and extracurricular that there was some adjustments that were being made or being addressed within the budget. Is that something?
For like the color guard in
Right.
particular, yes, there's money built into the Fine Arts Department budget for the first time this upcoming year, and it's I believe we put it either under part-time temp or contracted service. It's not for positions. It's not for a person to be hired as a district employee. It's contracted services, and there's money for each of the high school campuses there. I think it's $10,000 per campus.
And that's 10,000 more than what they've had before.
Yes, we have not provided anything for that type of contracted service to date.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's understood, is that there's been a part already being addressed there, that there's $10,000 more being made available per school at this point. That's good to hear. I think that's pretty much all mine. Ms. Mays, I was taking all these notes as formerly being secretary, so hopefully you've just wrote all the things down. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing this conversation next Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Ms. Walton.
Thank you, President Reich. I just want to say to you and to your department, you all are amazing managers of our district's money. Hats off to all of you that have anything to do with this. For I don't know how many years in a row, somehow we've been able to, or y'all have been able to, underestimate revenues by $11 million and overestimate expenses by 9.4.
I can assure you that that is.
And it's a trick. It's
not a trick. It's
it's a lot of experience.
Well, it's there are honestly our property value increase this year was much higher, the certified values and we were shocked when we saw them. And so things like that, the unexpected $2 million that we received for a prior year state aid adjustment that the state made for us, and so those things are completely unexpected, but they're nice.
Well, we get lucky every now and then, but you do an awfully good job of helping us face this point in the year without just wringing our hands. So, and I just want to tell Tony and Mandy and you how much that is appreciated. Few questions. On the STEM lab managers, are those professional or paraprofessionals?
They're paraprofessional. They're like a classroom aide.
I thought that was true. And these are all just kind of random for a little while. On the count for our student total enrollment, are the pre-K students in those daycares counted as part of our enrollment?
They are, because they are enrolled in Arlington ISD.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I thought they were. Compensation. The salary market comparison slide that you had that indicates that we have kind of a dip between year 8 and year 17. And we've heard some talk about equity adjustments. It seems to me if we want to talk about equity in our salaries for our teachers and our professionals, that returning to the teacher step plan that we had before we thought we were going to have to do merit pay of some sort, and leaving the pay range idea, I think would be a way to give us some transparency as well as some equity for our people. And I really would like to see what that might look like. So are you writing this down, Mrs. Secretary? I hope. And leave this range idea with some caveats. I realize, we need to pay more for our bilinguals and the supply and demand issue and all that kind of thing. But I think a regular first grade teacher at school A and a regular first grade teacher at school B, should be making pretty much the same amount of money because they're doing the same job. And I would just really, really think that would help us go a long way to kind of heal a wound there that was inflicted several years ago when we were really looking down the barrel of merit pay, and we're not there anymore, and that's a good thing. Did we check on the salary increases for Burleson and Birdville?
We have some districts. I can tell you who we were able to connect with. Let me see here. Cedar Hill, Irving, Fort Worth, Duncanville, and HEB have all reported to our HR department that they're looking at 2% salary increases. Mansfield said that they were considering between a 1% and a 2% raise.
Okay, so the whole Burleson Birdville thing, that rumor was just a rumor that I had
Well,
heard.
and so I think, I don't know that it was a rumor. These are the ones that we've contacted directly because they are literally right around us. And so I think somebody on our finance committee, it may have been you, and had indicated you'd heard that those
I had heard
districts-
3%, and Birdville and Burleson are certainly close enough for our people to drive to, for money. I'd appreciate maybe if we could find out what those two are doing.
We can check on those.
Thank you. On health insurance.
Ms. Walton, before you continue, I'm sorry, can you clarify the first request on the adjustments? And partly to help Ms. Mays, because poor things are kind of overburdened this evening.
Okay. I would like to see what it would look like if we went back to if we returned to the teacher step salary that we used to have.
Okay.
you know, about, 5 years ago, we went to this range thing, okay? And I just think it would be more transparent if we went back to that step plan.
All right.
And I think it would be very transparent where we could make the equity adjustments that somebody else requested. So.
So
does that-
a financial analysis of what that would look like
Right.
to make that type of transition.
Right.
Okay.
With, you know, and I with caveats. I mean, I know it can't be back to like it was because there's a bigger demand now for bilingual teachers, for certain science, math teachers, that sort of thing. So there's going to have to
Right.
be some caveats or some asterisks at the bottom or something for, you know, paying more for hard to get positions.
Okay. Okay. I know, Ms. Sullins, you wanted to comment on something related to that, or?
To comment, I just have a question as well, but I can wait till you finish the rest of yours.
Okay,
I'll
very
ask
good.
it.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
On the health insurance, I'm interested in seeing the information we get on just who's going to get hurt the worst with, you know, dinged the worst with this. I am somewhat concerned that we're going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of a little less than $600,000 on these $10 a month for 57% of our employees. It seems that we could take that money and add it to our 2% and almost to get to 2.25%. And I really want to make a case that we give everything we can in a salary increase for two reasons. One, not everybody takes the insurance. People who do take the insurance can take that extra money that they're getting, you know, by getting an extra 0.25% and apply that to their health insurance premiums. If we give it to teachers and employees in salaries, that goes on their teacher retirement number, and it helps them with, you know, when they retire. And just giving a stipend, extra stipend for health insurance doesn't do anything to help on the teacher retirement end of things. So, just a thought. On, just some more questions. On the proposed new positions, the dyslexia program, how many folks do we currently have working on the dyslexic program?
I'm going to ask if Paula Long knows that. They left, okay, all right. We can get that information for you.
Okay.
I can't tell you the number of dyslexia teachers we have today.
Right. And then how many students do we have in the program also? I
Okay,
just kind of
we'll get
want to, I don't have any handle on, you know, how big the program is, what we've already got, that sort of thing. It's a wonderful program, and we're making, you know, we're really making a big difference in a lot of kids' lives with it. I think that's all the questions that I had. Thank you very much, President Reich.
Thank you, Ms. Walton. Ms. Sullins.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Ms. Walton, I was making sure I understood for this budget session, which will be maybe done in just a few weeks, if we're going to look at a standard salary progression system, which is a complete restructuring, I would suggest and recommend to the colleagues that go to our finance committee for review and evaluation, because that was an enormous structural change. And so it would just be my recommendation that that would be something that would be looked at there.
We did discuss it in our finance committee, and I thought it was coming forward through that committee, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was just, the standard salary progression system in an environment that has funding that's anything but standard, that is only defined in volatility right now. I absolutely hear your concern on transparency, but what's not transparent is the funding part of that equation. So rather than looking at making a wholesale change to the structural system of the salary system and just here in a few weeks, I think I would suggest that would be a longer term study. Those are just my thoughts. So,
Thank you, Ms. Sullins.
I would be interested in having this go through committee. I'm looking at the timing. We will pass a budget by the end of the month. We have a meeting on Tuesday. That particular request, I just don't see burdening staff with that volume of work. I'd rather have the committee kind of look at that, Finance Committee, to gauge when and if we're able to consider that here on the dais. As well as the other questions that are related, because we have such a strange turnaround with less than a week because of our rescheduling due to the state conference. I would like us to pay close attention to our requests so that we are not causing Ms. Powell and her staff to just have too much of a burden in just such a short window of time. So personally, my expectation is that what you can provide by Tuesday, great, but I certainly don't think it's the expectation of this board to overburden you to try to come up with all of these information requests immediately, just like that. So I have a nodding of heads. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. So I have just a couple of questions, just clarifications really, because I think everybody's done a great job in covering our first dive here. On the general fund highlights with early college, high school, fine arts, dual language, STEM academy, the additional cohorts, I'm just a little bit confused. When I heard that, I assumed that means that those changes are included in the budget, the adjustments for the increased teaching staff positions for those cohorts matriculating up. Is that correct or different than the new positions that are proposed? And I'm asking because a couple of those are, as an example, the early college, high school, there's 2 positions. So if you could just provide a little clarity.
Right, so, we staff campuses, teachers in particular, through, typically through formulas, unless it's something really unique like the dyslexia teachers we're proposing to add above and beyond formulas. Early college, high school, that 4th cohort of students take really the majority of their classes at TCC, and so I would have to check. I'm not sure that there are actually any AISD teachers that we're adding there. We do have the 2 positions that you mentioned, a counselor and a clerk, that we are proposing to add there. The Fine Arts Dual Language Academies, again, those are cohorts of students. They're already part of our enrollment that we are now providing for through formulas at the campuses, so we can get the details there. I don't think that there's any real dramatic change in teacher counts at those 2 schools either, because those kids were already in our enrollment, and now then they're just being taught in a different program.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, in summation, there's definitely work to do. We are in a question mark environment, a volatile environment politically at the state level. We don't know what's happening. Our task is going to be quite challenging to pass a budget and give our employees a sense of comfort and stability in a completely unstable environment. That's going to be a task, but we'll do it. So we will continue this discussion. I don't see any additional lights flashing, so at this point, we will consider this item concluded for now, and we can move on to our next item under discussion action, which is the consideration of the proposed tax rate for the 2017-18 fiscal year. And Ms. Powell, you said it in the previous presentation, but I'm sure you want to give us just a little bit more detail.
Right, so, here we go. So yes, Dr. Reich, Dr. Cavazos, board members, state law requires that we hold a public hearing on a proposed tax rate in our proposed budget before the board considers adopting those items. We actually have to post a notice for that hearing in the paper. And in that notice, we publish a proposed M&O tax rate and a proposed debt service rate. And so we spent some time a few minutes ago talking primarily about the general fund side of the budget, and that's funded through the M&O tax rate. And so we talked about it being $1.04. And I mentioned that administration was not recommending any change in that for next year. One of the provisions of the law says that, that once you publish this notice of your proposed rate, you can ultimately adopt a rate that's lower than what you published. But if you need to adopt a rate that's higher than what you published, you have to publish another notice and you have to have another hearing. Okay, so it's not that you can't, it's just that you go through that process again. So with that, tonight we are asking that the board actually vote on the proposed rate that we will include in the notice that's published in the paper. All right, and so as we shared in the previous presentation, we are expecting property values to be up by almost 8%. And so the rate that we're proposing that, or let me back up there, the rate that we estimate that we will need is actually less than our rate that is adopted today. However, because of that requirement in the law that says that you can adopt a rate less than what you publish in the paper, but not more than, we're recommending that the rate that the board propose tonight is the same rate that we have in effect today, which is that $1.39008. That will allow us to put the rates in the notice in the paper. We'll have our hearing on June 22nd. And then when we get our certified values in July, we fully expect that we will be able to lower the debt service piece of our tax rate because values are growing. And we can do that then in August. I think that what we're going to wind up seeing is a debt service rate around that 33.5 cents that you see there in red. So again, this evening what we're proposing is, or asking the board to do, is to actually adopt or vote on a proposed rate that matches the 16-17 adopted rate of that $1.39, which is the combination of the $1.04 for M&O and the 35.008 cents on the debt service side. And you have in your notebook a copy of the proposed notice that goes in the paper.
All right, thank you, Ms. Powell. I don't see any lights for discussion. Is there a motion? Mr. Hogg.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Reich. I move for approval of the estimated tax rate at $1.37.
It's actually
No,
$1.39.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1.39.
008.
008. Got to put all the little decimals
I
on
need
there.
that 008.
Gotcha.
I second that.
All right.
Those pennies got up, don't they, Ms. Powell?
They do.
Motion by Mr. Hogg, second by Mr. Hibbs. Seeing no further lights, please vote. All voting in the affirmative. We have a proposed. Thank you. Okay, now we come to the open forum for non-agenda items portion of our meeting. This second open forum segment of the meeting provides citizens with an opportunity to address the trustees on any subject except personnel. This is not intended to be a discussion or debate, and trustees will not reply to the speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at an individual will not be tolerated. At this point, I have 6 cards from our audience. Please, when your name is called, please step to the podium. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. When the red light comes on and the buzzer sounds, please end your presentation. The first individual is Mr. Dominique Alejandre, or is it Alexander? Alexander, apologies.
Hello, all board members. I'm sorry I had my notes on my other phone and the phone went dead, so I'm having to pull it up. But I'm going to paraphrase it because I sat down and heard it. My name is Minister Dominique Alexander. I'm the president and founder of the Next Generation Action Network. This organization in our Excel program is to advance and cultivate young leaders towards the eradication of social injustice through community, educational, and social economic impacts. I come here today as an advocate in regards to bullying. There is a law in the state of Texas that we traveled all across this country, all across the state of Texas, visiting families and going to funerals and meeting families that have been victims of cyberbullying, whether that person tried to attempt suicide on their life or whether they was able to be successful. We were able to successfully create a new David Law in the state of Texas. That David Law now requires all public funded schools to come up with and make sure they have reporting systems on cyberbullying. It now makes it a law, and if a public school official or individual fails to it, it now is a Class A misdemeanor in the state of Texas, pending the governor's signature on his desk. This is a growing issue throughout the state of Texas. I come here today because I was called by a couple of parents and individuals, and all of them are here today on both sides of the aisle about kids' safety, cyberbullying. And what we have saw in a national study is that there is a huge substantial of people in education that have not taken cyberbullying so serious as it is. It is very serious. And, I open this as an olive branch because I went to the Arlington High School. I was called in by some parents to meet with the school principal. I was not pleased with my visit at Arlington Bowie with the head principal. That's all I would say about it. I was not pleased. It was very unprofessional, and that just wasn't the way that I wanted to be introduced when I'm talking about an issue of cyberbullying. I'm not talking about an issue that are down partisan lines. I'm talking about a nonpartisan issue throughout this country that we have. We have retaliation against the head girls basketball coach for addressing these issues, for being proactive in these issues. And I send this to an olive branch to the superintendent to meet for NGAN to be a beacon to address these issues. We have studied the policies. We are willing to come and visit with school officials and top leadership and showing you guys what we have studied and what other school districts have implemented to make this a serious issue. Children are afraid. In the Roosevelt High School, we created this little box. It was simple because one of the things that we studied is that a lot of the kids didn't feel comfortable with coming to administration and teachers and things. And we created this locker. It's called Locker of Hope. And what it does is the kids will go there, by there, and just drop a note in it. And they had a little procedures afterwards to follow up with the issue. And what they would do is they wouldn't go to the children so that for safety reason and so that the person, they would go to the parent and actually bring in these parents to address this issue. It is very serious, and the district has to have policies to address it. And it is serious, y'all. And I cannot express how serious bullying and cyberbullying in the age of social media, that can be very humiliating. It can be very humiliating, and we have saw this. Please don't allow for my next visit to Arlington ISD to be on the wake of a death, because I've been there and I've stood in front of board members and came back at the wake of death. And I do not want to see that. I want to work with Arlington ISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Our next speaker is Miss Elisa Simmons. Miss Simmons here? I don't see her. Okay, we'll move on. The third speaker, Sarah Caballero. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Board of ISD. My name is Sara Caballero. I am a parent who is concerned about the well-being of my children and all the students who are having problems in different ISD schools, but especially at Carey Junior High, where very serious problems has been raising in the school year that ended. Several equally worried parents are here, and we already had several previous meetings with Director Mr. Lizardo to discuss these problems. I let you know that these problems are serious, and I know you guys now because they happen every day in those schools. But the surprising thing is that until now, something has not been done to avoid these problems. I remember one occasion that I had with Dr. Cavazos, and he told us that if we didn't tell you what happened at schools, you would not find out why we are here. The problems are basically the following: fights daily, and we are talking about 5 daily fights at school, on and off campus, and getting off school buses at home too. Even there have been fights of girls against children. That is something inadmissible. Another issue is the introduction of weapons such as pistols, guns, and knives, with which some have been injured. Schools should not be allowing this. Another issue is the introduction of drugs, specifically marijuana, which is being sold by the students themselves, and that derives the fights and bring weapons to fight between them. I want to tell you as a parent to put yourself in our shoes, please. We panic when we leave our children in the morning without knowing if they will not be victims of physical violence. This should not be happening in any school in the world. But we believe that this can be avoided if there is more security. Since there is only one man, he acts as a security man and a policeman, but it is not enough for more than 1,000 students. When there are several fights, there is not one who can stop them, so we come to ask and demand that you are responsible for giving the education and security in the schools of the districts to our children, to definitely have more security not only next school year, but all the coming. We ask you that you add more metal detectors when students enter the school and do more random backpack searches. For the last 2 school weeks, there was more security, but we want it to be on permanent basis. I want to mention that during this year, motivation programs were canceled precisely because of fear of fights in the gym, and there were no staff to help avoid that. For that, we asked that our students be given the necessary motivation so that they can believe in themselves. Let them know that they can achieve their dreams like any other students across the ISD. That the necessary resources be used for those who have problems with addictions or misbehavior. Our school also needs a new look, better green areas, and better attention in the cafeteria, as there have been many complaints of food. We also ask for a permanent family representative that we will as a resource for us parents to work with the school. Sadly, we have seen other students move to other schools because they don't feel safe in Carey Junior High or another schools. We believe that you can make changes that better benefit the students. We thank Mr. Lizardo, who is in the best mood to do his job, and we want to tell him that he has us. Our parents present are in the best position to work for Cary Junior High to stop having these problems. As we know, it has had a great improvement over the last few years. But even together, we can do much more. Then thank you, and it's time that we start working together. Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Caballero. Next, we have Juliana Gutierrez. Ms. Gutierrez, Juliana? She left. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Luis Castillo.
Union Board President Wright, board members. My name is Luis Castillo. I am standing here before you as many times like before to make a request on behalf of the Hispanic community, which the students' body here in Arlington ISD is comprised of, half of them are Hispanic Latinos students, about half of them. And it's no secret that most of their parents are immigrants. There's no secret. And the immigration issue has hit the national waves and it trickles down to the local level. You know, and regardless how we feel about immigration, you know, I think that's immaterial. They're still part of our community, regardless. They still have kids that were born here, or maybe kids that were brought here when they were little. But the fact of the matter is that you see their faces, and the immigrant community, they clean our houses, they build our roads, they construct residents, businesses, they do our yard work, they even take care of some of our kids. They do those jobs that nobody wants to do, but they contribute to the community. They're very much part of the fabric of the community. And just because they are immigration status, we should not make them feel anything less. Earlier this year, across the nation, several cities, in fact Dallas and Fort Worth ISD, they passed resolutions called a Welcoming and Safe Resolution. Granted, it's symbolic, but it reinforces organizations' anti-discriminatory policies and reaffirms the 1982 Supreme Court case that every child is entitled to a public education regardless of immigration status. We stand here before you tonight to ask, and we made this request several months ago. Granted, those cities in Fort Worth and Dallas did it a couple of months ago. We communicated to the superintendent, and I believe that several leaders of the community communicated to the superintendent, and we copied the board asking nicely to consider passing a welcome and safe resolution. Due to the lack of education, we never got a response from the superintendent. Well, that's gone. We're here now, and we're making a formal public request for the board to pass a welcoming and safe resolution. Though it's symbolic in nature, it's important to the community. It's very important for them to feel safe and wanted and included in the school district. The school district, like I said, is almost half Latino, Hispanic, and such a resolution will help them alleviate some of their fear and uncertainty. You know, they didn't ask to be in this position. Of course, some will say, well, they put themselves in this position because how they came to the United States. Well, you have to think that the U.S. federal government is also to blame on this, because the federal government failed to enforce immigration law for so many years. These people came here, they settled in, they bought houses, they bought cars, they had families, so they set their roots here, and now for them to be subject for deportation, you know, it's ill-advised, because it's two parties. You know, it's the immigrant community and the federal government for not enforcing the laws. So shifting the blame just on the immigrant community, I think is totally wrong. The federal government should take bear some responsibility for failing to do what they were supposed to do. If they would enforce the law back then, we wouldn't be in this situation. Well, it is what it is. They're here, and they're very much part of the community, and we're asking the board to show their support for this segment of the community, which happens to be majority ethnic group in your school district. And the resolution should read in part that the Arlington School District will strive to create the safest possible environments for the students and employees, providing them the foundation needed to learn, thrive, seek assistance and information, and reach each child's potential in an educational-focused environment free of insecurity and of fear for all its employees, students, and their families, regardless of their immigration status. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. The final card that we have tonight is from Latoya, is it Latoya Johnson? Was that right? Is it Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone, to the board. I just want to talk about the bullying, kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Alexander on the Bowie High School. He kind of went over a lot about the social media, cyberbullying, but there has also been physical, I don't want to say abuse, but attacking of students. There has been antagonizing, chasing, following, provoking situations with, my daughter, my nieces, their friends. There's a group of children that are just taking matters into their own hands. They're getting, suspended from school, but still coming on school grounds, trespassing, being there when they're not supposed to. We do not have enough staff. We do not have enough security. The APs, including the head of administration, cannot be at so many places at one time. They're not having eyes everywhere. I don't know if the cameras work or not. We've asked them to look back at the cameras to see, where they're coming in, how they're getting in, how they're able to get on school grounds. The children just aren't safe. There are fights breaking out everywhere. In the offices. I was in the office waiting to speak to the head of the administration, and 2 boys fight right in the office. Your staff aren't safe. It's not just the children. Nobody is safe. We don't have any real consequences and repercussions for children who want to be unruly. We do have children, I can only speak for my child, but my daughter has all pre-AP classes, 1 AP class, a college course class. Right now she's in the Upper Bound program during the summertime. She's applying herself. She is an athlete. She played on the volleyball team, the basketball team, as well as the track team, and she's an avid student. That does not reflect of a child who wants to indulge in fights. My daughter has not one time gotten in trouble for any physical altercations ever. So my thing is, when I come as a concerned parent, I want the things that I'm asking for to be addressed. I'm leaving my job daily to come and make sure that my children are safe. I have 3 daughters, 1 just graduated. I have 2 nieces as well. I am a parent who is involved with other people's children, so I get involved in every single thing that I possibly can. And we're here as parents standing in the gap for our children because we want them to be safe. And the thing is, I've seen videos. There are videos of fights. Your administration are getting assaulted in these fights. Your security, they're getting assaulted, and half of the security is pretty up in age. They're not able to get around as fast as they can. They're not able to restrain as much as they possibly can. We've had drugs going around in the school. We've had 2 overdoses. Not one time did we receive anything from the school stating that, hey, we have an issue, something going on with drugs. Sit down and talk to your children. Make sure they're not taking anything from anybody. Making us aware as parents. The only reason why I know is because, unfortunately, it was one of my daughter's best friends that overdosed. And because it would hit so close to home for us, we almost lost a student. She almost lost her best friend. It was a dumb decision that she made, but at the end of the day, she learned from it. But we did not get what we needed from our administration to make sure that working with us instead of against us. We've been treated like villains. And when we come to that school, we're being treated as if we're doing something wrong because we're concerned parents. I took my daughters out of school early. There's early dismissal on the last 2 days of school at 11:30. I took my daughters out before early dismissal, meaning that they had to rush to do their exams. And I don't know what type of grades that they received on their exams, but it's more about their safety than grades to me. I have to make sure that when I send my children to school, that they're going to be safe. I've had many meetings with the APs as well as the head of the administration at that school. I've also sent emails to the school district. I have not received one email back from the school district. My sisters have, but I haven't. Personally myself. And then on top of that, you know, when we went to our last meeting, we had to step out to the community and get the help that we need, just like we're doing right now coming to the school board. We're stepping outside the box. I understand there's a code of conduct, but that's in black and white. We're dealing with gray area, and we need to deal with things that are outside of the box. We have to think outside of the box. I came in here and I've seen all of these other principals getting all of these awards. They are obviously doing something outside of the normal code of conduct. Obviously, and that's what we need for ourselves at Bowie High School. I mean, at any school, we need to know that you're going over and beyond for your children, because this is the career that you chose and the path that you chose. And I just hope that, just like I've seen everyone up here in tears and you know, congratulating, we want to be able to do that where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. All right, we have come to that portion of the agenda. Well, that closes the open forum for non-agenda items. Now we've come to the end of our agenda, to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Rice. I'd like to share some information. It's been a busy wrap-up to the school year, so we'll start with the Aware winners. Many of you were able to join us for the Aware banquet. This year's winners were Jim Pettit from Lamar High School, Pauline Medlin from Bergen, and Eric Hernandez from Bailey. They're pictured there. Evan Sanchez from Butler and Ashley Johnson from Hale Elementary. Congratulations to our Aware winners, outstanding teachers in our school district. Once again, our fifth graders were able to participate in the AT&T Stadium Art Tour and also display artwork at the stadium, thanks to Gene and Jerry Jones and their foundation. To help us with giving them that experience. May 11th at the AT&T Stadium was truly impressive. I know some of you were able to join us. The students were outstanding, their work was outstanding, and the displays were outstanding. May the 12th was Arlington ISD night at the Rangers game, and Sam Houston High School boys soccer Joey Rodriguez threw out the first pitch. He did a great job. He made it through and no problem. Hale Elementary was named Fitness All-Stars and All-Star School of the Year and was given a $5,000 check by the hospital. Arlington High Choir sang the national anthem. It was a great night for baseball and for AISD. I was joined by Arlington Police Chief Will Johnson, and thanks to him, as we conducted an assembly with Williams Elementary students on the Take 25 program that encourages them to talk to their parents about school safety, and safety actually in the summer when they're out of school, and to take the time to visit and revisit safety procedures at home. And the students were very attentive. I really commend Williams Elementary for the fine job that they did that day. Our service recognition retirement banquet was May the 16th, and we honored 25, 30, 35, and 40-year employees as well as retiring. And that's Electra Kitchen, who is retiring, so I thought we'd give her just one more opportunity to be part of our announcements here. An outstanding employee, and she represents those employees that have retired this year or retiring this year, and she's just simply outstanding representation of our school district. Atherton Elementary students helped the Texas Rangers launch a new baseball-themed education course for the summer called Summer Slugger, and the course is aimed at preventing the loss of math skills and literacy skills in the summer. Pitcher Nick Martinez, and that's him right there, and other Ranger officials came out to hand this free program off to our students at Atherton Elementary. Our annual volunteer luncheon is just a small way that we say thank you to all our volunteers who have over 500 hours of volunteer service at the schools. We have over 9,500 volunteers in AISD. which is an increase every year. It's been increasing thanks to the work of Aaron Perales, our principals, and our family engagement department. Just outstanding, and we couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. More than 400 avid seniors were recognized in a ceremony in mid-May. These hard-working avid seniors, and there are some right there with Principal Dalla from Arlington High School. These seniors received a combined $8.8 million in scholarship. Congratulations to our over 400 avid seniors from all our 6 high schools. Students from 32 AISD campuses showed off their technology and creative, innovative approaches thanks to our Transformation Through Innovation Grant Showcase, May 22nd. There were some students showing me their technology projects, and I was trying to understand them. Not the students, but the projects, and they did an outstanding job. They were well advanced, and I commend all our teachers and students who participated in that. They did an outstanding job. The valedictorian and salutatorian and the top student athletes from each campus were recognized at the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court. Thank you to Andy Wynn, our commissioner, for taking the time to honor these students and recognize them. They were very impressed and got to, I think, learn about the County Commissioner's Court and all that they do. So it was a good time for all of them to get together and be recognized. Congratulations to our May Teachers of the Month, and you see them there. And they are Carl Ostrowski from Venture High School, Joni Rinker Dozier from Owsley Junior High, and Hannah Stevens from Farrell Elementary. These were our teachers who, Teachers of the Month for May, and exceptional, outstanding teachers. Every time we do this, the students are engaged and they're very proud of their teachers. The Jimmy and Laura Jones Academy of Fine Arts and Dual Language was officially dedicated May the 27th with a great ceremony. It was just really a perfect day to honor Jimmy and Laura Jones and dedicate the Jones Academy. They were, I think, very, very pleased with the ceremony, but also very humbled by their dedication of their school. It's been busy. Our Star Luncheon recognized 84 students from 6 traditional high schools that make up the top 2%. And then they bring teachers, if you're familiar with the Star Luncheon, they bring teachers that have impacted their lives. And this is a great opportunity for students to honor their teachers somewhere in the system. Some were elementary, some were junior high, some were principals that have made a big difference in their lives. So congratulations to all our students and our staff that have been recognized. Graduation weekend was this past weekend. We had inspiring, emotional, encouraging, enjoyable, all kinds of different ways to express themselves. Students, we had over more than 4,000 graduates walk at UTA College Park last weekend. Class of 2017 was outstanding, and we're very proud of them and look forward to all the great things they're going to accomplish. On Monday, we were able to sign a memorandum of understanding with UTA with the Early College High School Scholars Program. These students, we have about 60 to 80, these are representatives, are within 6 hours of finishing their associate's degree, and they're incoming seniors. So their junior year, they're almost done with their associate's degree. So we created a pathway, thanks to Dr. Kabari and Capola, so that they can start to work on their bachelor's degree. And these students are prepared to take UTA college courses in this coming year and start advancing their bachelor's degree. The MOU actually allows the students to sign their degree plan, get college advising, get scholarships and things like that. These are students that are outstanding. They're a great representation of many, many students in our school system. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. Board members with reports, Ms. Walton.
I just wanted to share one thing I heard today. There's a great deal of teacher in-service going on, and sometimes the reports are good and sometimes not, but this was a good report, and it concerned the gifted and talented coursework that was going on at Seguin High School. I don't know whose idea it was, but it certainly impressed one teacher who called me to tell me about it. The Seguin, I guess it was maybe the culinary arts kids or something, set up a kind of a cafe somewhere around where the gifted and talented workshops were going on, and had it set up where they could plug in their technology and sip coffee and, on their breaks or before or afterwards. And she said it just changed the whole dynamic of the whole experience to one that was very positive and enjoyable. And she said in addition, the workshop was wonderful. So congratulations to Dr. Kennedy and whoever else did assign that, and whoever at Seguin came up with the idea of a coffee cafe at the same time. I guess the kids were kind of practicing their skills too, so win-win for everybody. So I thought I'd share that with y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Walton. Ms. Sullins?
Thank you, President Reich, President Honorable Doctor. How do we get that all done?
President, Honorable, Dr. Mr.
Dr. Mister. Very good. Yours truly. I just want to take a moment to say happy birthday to our colleague, Miss Walton's birthday is today. Thank you for spending your birthday with us, and happy birthday.
What a way to spend it. Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Sullins. Mr. Hogg.
Thank you, President Reich. Ms. Walton, happy birthday, but you did get overseated by an 8-year-old's birthday tonight, so that's all right. Just real quick to this board, I received notice of some really awesome news, awesome and kind of weird news. On June 24th, I just want everyone to put this on their calendar, and I'll ask Lisa to send it out to everyone. There will be a funeral at First United Methodist Church, and I say it to start with that, but it's a pretty interesting funeral, probably one I know I've never been to and you've never been to. They are bringing back the remains of an Arlington ISD student, George Koch, and you probably don't know his name. Mr. Koch was killed in Pearl Harbor, and they have found his remains, and they've identified his remains through science and technology. Over 2,400 people were killed, many of them not identified, and nothing was ever brought home of any one of those individuals. Truly one of the most horrific acts on this country ever. And this, I say young man, would be an old man now to this day. But he was an 18-year-old when he was killed. I don't know if he officially graduated from Arlington High, like many of them did not back in during a time of war. But they have identified his body, and they are bringing him back. It will be a full military honor funeral on Saturday, June 24th, to honor an Arlington High grad who is now, or an Arlington High student who was killed in Pearl Harbor and has now been identified. So I will send this out. I've actually got an email ready to go out to Ms. Johnson, Dr. Reich, and Dr. Cavasso, so we can get this and see how make sure we promote this within our district to give this man the honor and the burial he truly deserves as a true hero in this country. So that's all. I just wanted everyone, if you can, I don't know if I'm going to be in town. I'm going to try. It'd be an amazing thing. Say it again, Ms. Saturday, June 24th, and I don't actually know what time, but that will be sent out, and we will, at where? First United Methodist, if I remember correctly. We'll send it out. I just read the email, but I could have forgotten in that short of time. So I just wanted to make sure my colleagues and everyone knew about that and ask the district to please try and promote that any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg. That is quite remarkable. I will be out of town on that date, so I'm hopeful that we can arrange something. That's an incredible story. I don't really have anything. I just wanted to add a tiny bit onto Dr. Cavazos' report. The Arlington Collegiate High School opportunity and MOU signing. One of the things that we discovered from one of the students who is now a junior already has 60 college credit hours. Isn't that incredible? I just wanted to let this team know that that's an example of how that facility is working in the favor of our children and their dreams. It's remarkable. So with that, I will move on to Madam Secretary. I won't say Dewey, but could you please let us know what the items are for the record?
Yes, we have requested, Kristen Hudson requested expected inflation rates. Keisha requested to get a financial analysis of the raise increase for years 8 through 17 with Gates. Bowie requested sending documentation showing the increase in enrollment in each plan in our district. Bowie also requested comparison of ERS versus TRS. He also requested AISD's contribution to wellness compared to other districts. He also noted that we need to, as a board, have discussions about a 2 to 3 year plan for government cuts. Also was requested to check on Birdville by Poly, what their increase. Burleson and Birdville. Also request to get how many dyslexia teachers and students we have from Poly. And then we will receive something via email about the June 24th funeral at First United Methodist.
I think
Anything I left off?
there was some, didn't you request the medical, the numbers, and Bowie kind of tagged onto it too, the number of our employees who are enrolled in each plan and the real dollar increase that each group will have.
Yeah, that was my third bullet.
And Mr. Drollinger has captured all of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're covered.
Okay, good.
Great job, Ms. Mays, thank you. Trial by fire, right? All right. Okay, so at this time, the board will go into closed session, closed meeting under Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, consistent with the board's agenda. The time is 11:07 p.m. Thank you.